Hello everyone, this is part 37 of What If Naruto's Mother Was Tsunade Senju, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
At the same time outside the fortress, unknown to the Konoha and Am parties, a large body of shinobi had gathered, hidden in the nearby tree line opposite the fortress. These shinobi were remnants of the now decimated Am rebels, after hearing that Hanzo had left the village, the first time in decades, to meet with the new Godime Hokage. The rebels gathered what strength they could and journeyed to the meeting spot, seeing this as their one best chance to finally kill the hated tyrant and avenge their comrades who had died fighting him. Are they there? Asked one shinobi. Yes, replied the leader of the company, who was staring at the fortress. Then shouldn't we attack? Asked the same shinobi. No, there is a reason why Hanzo and the Hokage choose this fort as a meeting place for their talk. According to what I've heard, the original builders of the fort placed a powerful jutsu around the lake, which made it almost impossible for attackers to cross the water. The only way to cross the lake safely is to cross one of 3 narrow bridges, but if we do that we be easily spotted. So what? At most Hanzo has only 3 guards with him, we can easily overwhelm him with our numbers, the younger shinobi answered. Don't be a fool, hissed the elder shinobi angrily. There is a reason why Hanzo has lived as long as he has. If we underestimate him, we will be the ones to die. There's also the chance that Konoha might get involved, and accompanying the Godime Hokage is her former teammate, Jiraiya the Toad Sage. That means we would be dealing with not only Hanzo, but also 2 members of the Densetsu no Sannin, legendary 3 ninja, and if that happened we're as good as dead. Would Konoha actually side with Hanzo? The other shinobi asked. It possible, since they did come here to discuss an alliance. Regardless, we'll wait till night, that way we'll have the cover of darkness and the element of surprise on our side. If we're lucky we can avoid a full-out battle and kill Hanzo and his group before they even know what is happening. Hi, the other shinobi replied. Shortly after a third shinobi appeared and saluted the leader. The men are ready and are waiting for your order. How many men were you able to gather? The leader asked. Adding those that came with you, we now have about 40 in total. That's all, growled the leader, since this was less than half of what he had hoped for. What of the others? Given Hanzo's recent attacks on our bases, the other group leaders are hesitant to act without Pain Sama's orders, and believe for the time being, that we should focus on conserving our numbers. Idiots, spat the leader, don't they realize the opportunity we're being handed here? Hanzo is more vulnerable now than he has ever been. How can they simply sit back and let this chance slip through our fingertips? I'm sorry, said the shinobi who bowed his head in shame. No, it's fine, I'm just ranting, the leader sighed, calming himself down. 40 should be enough, once night falls we'll attack. But what if the talks ends before it gets dark? Asked the second shinobi. Then we'll attack as they make their way back to Am, the leader replied. Either way Hanzo will never turn to Am, alive that is. Nodding in understanding, the 2 shinobi quickly returned to their assigned position, leaving their leader alone to monitor the fort. With Hanzo and Tsunade. No, said Tsunade, as she stared coldly at her fellow shinobi leader. After several hours of long discussion, both Tsunade and Hanzo finally come to an agreement, in the form of a mutual defensive pact. In the treaty, both leaders agreed that neither side would give any kind of support to their enemies, and in times of war, both villages would come to each other's aid, giving either military support or relief, whichever they deemed was necessary. Although it would take several months to write up the treaty and have the exact wordings for it to be written. Hanzo agreed that he would keep the borders between Am no Kuni and Hai no Kuni secure, but like all things it came at a price. Are you sure that is your answer, Tsunade? Asked Hanzo, staring calmly at the younger woman. What I suggest is not unreasonable, in fact it could benefit both our villages greatly later on, and form better relations. Calming herself down, Tsunade stared back at the elderly man. That may be true, but we do not need to have my son marrying your granddaughter simply to have better relations, there are other ways. Perhaps, Hanzo remarked. But you know better than anyone Hokage Dono that a treaty written on paper only lasts for so long, and can easily be broken. But an alliance through blood is much harder to break. A union between our two respected clans would be much stronger than any treaty written and last much longer, not unlike the union between your grandfather, the Shodai Hokage, and your grandmother, Uzumaki Mito. The union not only strengthened relations with your clan and the Uzumaki, but it also created an alliance between Konoha and Azushio, whirling tides, which lasted for decades. If you agree, this defensive pact can become the stepping stone to a powerful alliance between our two villages. When Hanzo finished, Tsunade just stared at the elder man, showing no sign of anger or any other kind of emotion. Hanzo's offer was of course expected. His request that Naruto accompany her to the meeting was a dead giveaway of his intentions. But at the same time it puzzled her, since Hanzo was rarely so obvious, unless of course he had something up his sleeve, which was what worried her. Pushing her concern aside, Tsunade locked eyes with Hanzo and spoke, choosing her words carefully. I'm afraid that a marriage between my son and your granddaughter would be impossible, Hanzo-sama. My son is already engaged to the daughter of the late Yondaime Kazekage, which is in accordance to our new treaty with them. Oh, Hanzo replied, show no sign of anger or disappointment in his voice. From my understanding, your new treaty with Suna stipulates that the marriage itself can be annulled once both your son and the late Yondaime Kazekage's daughter reached marrying age, should either of them wish it. Furthermore, if I understand correctly, your village has enacted a law which allows your son to marry multiple times, so he can reproduce more Mokuton uses like himself. I believe they call it the Clan Restoration Act. When Hanzo finished, both Tsunade and Jiraiya had to fight hard to keep their surprise from showing. The fact that Hanzo knew about the details of their treaty with Suna was concerning in itself, but that he also knew about the Clan Restoration Act. It showed that they had a major leak somewhere. Tsunade had been keeping the news of the Clan Restoration Act and Naruto's arranged marriage with Temari tight-lipped, fearing that someone would try and use the situation to their advantage. Only high-ranking members in the village knew the full details of the new treaty with Suna and the Clan Restoration Act. At first Tsunade had wanted to deny both things, stating that they were rumor, but she knew that it would be pointless. The news of Naruto and Temari's arrangement would become public knowledge once Temari came to Konoha to begin her duties as ambassador for Suna, and it was only a matter of time before the Clan Restoration Act became known. Even if she tried denying it, she doubted Hanzo would believe her. The fact he even mentioned it showed that he believed it. Calming herself down again, Tsunade spoke, where exactly did you hear all this? Like your former teammate there, I too have my sources, Hanzo answered, giving nothing away, although silently thanked his informant for the information. So I will ask you again, would you be willing to agree to the proposition of having my granddaughter marrying your son? I'm afraid I must refuse, Tsunade answered, causing Hanzo to frown slightly. I will not imprison my son in a loveless marriage or a marriage of convenience. That's rather hypocritically of you, Hokage-sama, given how you agreed to have your son marry the late Yondaime Kazekage's daughter, Amaya remarked, earning a cold glare from the female Hokage. My son did that on his own accord, believing that it was the best way to secure peace between Konoha and Suna, and even then that arrangement is only temporary. Perhaps, added Hanzo, but it does not change the fact that what we propose could benefit both our villages. Our village can be a valuable ally, or a dangerous enemy for Konoha. Is that a threat? Asked Tsunade, narrowing her eyes in anger, since she didn't take threat well, and would not be bullied around. Take it however way you will, Hanzo replied coolly. But it does not change what I have just said. My granddaughter has enacted the traditions of our clan and declared your son her future husband. Need I remind you, Hanzo-sama, that my son is from Konoha, not your clan's laws and tradition have no value with us, Tsunade retorted coldly. True, but to deny my granddaughter like this could be considered a grave insult, not only to my clan, but to my village, especially when she declared it during the Chunin exam and in front of several visiting shinobi. I believe that would be your problem, not mine, since I am under no obligation to agree to this marriage. If that is how you feel, then it seems that our talks were pointless after all. You would call off the agreement? Tsunade asked in surprise. Yes, how can you expect my village to ally with yours when you have no respect for our traditions? Perhaps Iwa would be more respectful to our tradition. Recently the Sandaime Chushikage has been sending me petitions in allowing his shinobi to enter our territory. In fact, they may welcome an alliance with us. When he finished, Hanzo was pleased to see Tsunade bit her lip, indicating that this news worried her. The story was of course a lie, since he had received no such offers from the leader of Iwa, but Tsunade did not know this. He had heard of the recent border fights between Konoha's forces and Iwa, and knew that if he allowed Iwa forces to travel through his territory or set up a base in Amno Kuni, it would put Konoha in a difficult situation, especially if war broke out, worse still if his village allied with Iwa against Konoha. Teast traditions, this has nothing to do with your traditions, thought Tsunade angrily. Before speaking, tell me Hanzo-sama, if I were to agree to this marriage, do you think your granddaughter would still want to go through with the marriage once she learns of my son's status, where he would have to marry multiple times? My granddaughter would accept it, Hanzo replied without any hesitation. She is a loyal Kaneki and she would see the value of the marriage and would accept it. In fact, she has stated on several occasions that your son is the only person suitable for her. When Hanzo finished, Tsunade silently scoffed at the sheer audacity of the man. He had just proven what she had already suspected. Naruto and Mai's marriage had nothing to do with improving relations with Konoha and Am, or the traditions of his clan. He was simply using them so that he could get his granddaughter close to Naruto, for whatever reason. At the same time, Tsunade noticed that Hanzo's daughter Amaya was frowning when he had finished, indicating that not everyone in his family supported his plans for his granddaughter. Well then, it seems that we have nothing more to discuss, Tsunade stated, but before she or Hanzo could get up from their seats, Jiraiya suddenly spoke. Wait, before we end things off on a bad note, maybe we can reach a compromise. Jiraiya, what are you playing at? Tsunade hissed angrily, but before she could say anything further, Jiraiya leaned down whispered. Just play along, Haim. If we play our cards right, we can still get what we came for, and we can avoid the whole marriage deal. What sort of compromise? Asked Hanzo, intrigued with what the Toad Sage was offering. I know for a fact that your granddaughter is eager for a rematch with the kid, so how about this, we have the two of them duke it out. If our kid wins, you agree to the earlier terms of the pact without the marriage deal, but if your girl wins, we'll agree to have the kid marry her. This way both sides have a fair chance at getting what they want. When Jiraiya finished, Tsunade quickly turned to Jiraiya and looked like she was about to punch him in the face, again. But stopped when she saw the look on Jiraiya's face that said, trust me, I know what I'm doing. At the same time, Hanzo considered Jiraiya's offer, although it held some risks, it did have its rewards. Tsunade had proven more stubborn than he had expected, and wasn't imitated by his subtle threats about allying with Iwa, or allowing their shinobi to enter his territory. If he refused the offer, they would have to end the talks, gaining nothing, and it would be only a matter of time until Jiraiya learned he had been bluffing about allying with Iwa. But if he agreed, they would still have a chance to get what they came for, and even if they should lose, they would at least get something out of it. It wasn't ideal, but it was better than nothing. Very well, I agree to the terms, answered Hanzo before looking at Tsunade. Do you Hokage Dono? Against her better judgment, Tsunade decided to trust Jiraiya's decision, and nodded her head in acceptance. Once both Hanzo and Tsunade had agreed to the compromise, the two shinobi heads stood up, and made their way outside. Making their way outside, Tsunade leaned over to Jiraiya and whispered, I hope you know what you're doing, Jiraiya, for your sake. So do I, the Toad Sage said to himself, feeling more than a little nervous should things fail. Once Hanzo and Tsunade had exited the main building, the remaining other members of the two parties walked over to them, believing that the talks had ended successfully. Are the talks done, Hokage-sama? Asked Kushina after she and Naruto had made their way over to them. Yes, the talks are finished, Tsunade answered. So did you agree to alliance? Asked Naruto. Not exactly, Tsunade replied, getting a confused look from Naruto and the others. We've agreed to a mutual defensive pact, where we will support one another in times of war. But there's a catch. What sort of catch? Asked Naruto, who started having bad feeling. I'll let the pervert here explain, since it was his idea, Tsunade answered, indicating to Jiraiya, who sighed deeply before speaking. When the Hokage and Hanzo set down the terms for the pact, Hanzo made one final demand. He would only agree to the pact if you married his granddaughter, Jiraiya explained, where he then quickly raised his hand up in defense, when he saw that Naruto and Kushina were going to say something, telling them to wait for him to finish. Naturally, your mother refused to agree to this, and Hanzo was about to walk away from the talks, threatening to ally with Iwa against us. So I came up for a compromise that would settle the matter. What sort of compromise? Kushina asked, where several ideas began to pop inside her head. You and your girl free off, began Jiraiya, but was interrupted by a sharp elbow to the ribs, courtesy of Tsunade. I mean, you two are to duke it out. If you win, the marriage deal is off the table and Hanzo agrees to the original terms of the pact. If she wins, well, Hanzo still agrees to the terms of the pact, only difference being that you two will have to get hitched. You got to be joking, yelled Naruto, not believing what his godfather had gotten him into. Tsunade was of course of a similar mind as Naruto. The only reason she even agreed to this idea was because she was confident that Naruto could defeat Mai again, and they could still get the defensive agreement with Am, without causing insult to Hanzo. Mai on the other hand couldn't be happier with the compromise. For her this killed two birds with one stone. First, she would finally claim Naruto as hers, and second, she could regain her pride as a Kaneki. From the moment she first witnessed Naruto's true power in the finals and learning just how much he had been holding back in their fight, Mai had become even more determined, if not borderline obsessed with not only to making Naruto her husband, but in fighting him again. She doubled her training regiments and began to form strategies on how to defeat him, now that she knew what he could do. Smiling at the chance of fighting Naruto again, Mai looked over to her, soon-to-be husband, who was busy yelling at his godfather. This time things will be different, and unlike last time, I know what to expect, and I won't be as restricted as I was in the preliminaries. Once Naruto finishing telling his godfather about how much of an idiot he was, the blonde boy began to calm himself down. Well, I suppose this could be worse. Unlike with Suna, I actually have another option here. You should also know Mai, begun Amaya. That should you win, Tsunade-san's son will be required to marry other girls as well. At the mention of Naruto having to marry other girls, Mai quickly turned to Naruto, leaking a rather impressive bout of killing intent that would have made even the once insane Gaara nervous. Realizing that he was in trouble, Naruto knew he would have to act fast before Mai tried to kill him again. Hoping to calm the young Kunoichi down and not start another incident, Naruto quickly raising his hands in denial. Hold on, Mai-chan, just wait, this wasn't my idea. The whole marrying other girls thing was my great-grandfather's idea. He made some law that states that I have to marry other girls to rebuild my clan. I have no choice the matter. After hearing this and seeing her grandfather nod, confirming that what Naruto said was true, the young Kunoichi began to calm down. Although maintained a menacing look, making it easy for everyone else to know what she was thinking, and it wasn't good. Elsewhere in several other shinobi villages, numerous different girls suddenly began to sneeze at almost the exactly same time, causing them all to wonder who was talking about them. Once things calmed down with his granddaughter, Hanzo suggested that they move outside the fort, so that it would not be damaged when Mai and Naruto fought. The Am rebels. Hidden in the nearby tree line, the Am company leader watched as Hanzo, Tsunade and members of the guards made their way out of the fort. Have the discussion already ended? Asked one of the leader's lieutenants, who had just arrived to make his hourly report on the condition of the group. I don't believe so, the company leader replied. Look at Hanzo and the Hokage, they are standing atop the fort's wall, while the two younger ones are making their way to the coastal part of the island, right below them. What are they doing? I believe they're going to have a fight. Who's that boy? That's fighting Hanzo's granddaughter. Asked the lieutenant, recognizing Mai. I believe that might be Hokage's son, the leader replied, remembering Naruto's description. The Senju heir, the shinobi asked in surprise, the one who defeated Hanzo's granddaughter in the Chunin exam. The same. But why are they fighting? Does she hold some sort of grudge against the boy for beating her? Possible, then again, he might have insulted her in some way, the leader replied. From what I've heard, the girl is rather hot-blooded, but still, this might be to our advantage. How so? Asked the young Amnin. When the boy and the girl start fighting, Hanzo, the Hokage and the guards will focus their attention on the fight. This will give us an opportunity to maneuver around fort without them knowing and come up from behind. By the time they realize what is happening, it will be too late for them. Hi, replied the lieutenant, understanding his leader's plan. Have everyone get ready. Once I give the signal, we'll circle around the fort and cross one of the other bridges, and attack Hanzo and his guard from behind. With another, hi, the younger shinobi disappeared. This is the day your reign will finally come to an end, Hanzo, I swear it. Growled the rebel leader to himself. Naruto and Mai. Once they had made their way down to the coast part of the island, the two young shinobi stood directly opposite one another. Overlooking them atop the outer wall was their respected families, who waited for them to begin. Enter Naruto Shippuden OST, Emergence of Talents. I suggest you don't hold back this time, Naruto-kun, Mai said as she took a fighting stance. I wasn't going to, answered Naruto, as took his own fighting stance. Good, Mai replied with an excited smirk as she and Naruto waited for the word to start. The moment Jiraiya shouted the word, begin, the two shinobi raced at one another. Once they were close enough, Naruto attempted to finish the fight with one punch, using his superhuman strength. Knowing what was coming, Mai gracefully evaded the punch by spinning to her left and then attempted to hit him in the side with a reverse heel kick. Acting fast, Naruto quickly jumped back and narrowly avoided the kick. Whoa, too close. Seeing that she had almost hit Naruto, the granddaughter of Hasno smirked. Hey, Naruto-kun, greatest edge may come from his inhuman strength, but so long as I can avoid his punches and kicks or keep my distance, his strength is useless, leaving him open to attack. After forcing Naruto back, Mai continued to press her advantage and attacked Naruto with a falling axe kick, following up with a leg swipe and upward punch. But each and every time Naruto avoided them, and after the punch, Naruto tried to knock Mai off her feet with his own leg swipe, but missed when Mai flipped backwards and landed several feet away. Not bad, you countered that well, Mai said, smirking. Damn, Mai-chan certainly has improved, she's faster than she was at the Chunin exam, Naruto silently remarked, impressed with the older girl's speed and agility. Guess I was fooling myself, thinking I could finish this quickly. Deciding to take things up a notch, Mai preformed several hand seals and inhaled deeply before thinking, Kaiten, Ru no Hoko, fire style, Dragon's Roar. Spiting a large stream of fire from her mouth. With no time to waste, Naruto narrowly avoided the powerful stream of fire by jumping to his right, forcing Mai to cut her attack off and move away when she saw him racing towards her. Unwilling let her escape, Naruto chased after the young Hattori Kunoichi. But before he could reach her, Mai drove him back by sending several shuriken at him, forcing him to fall back. After evading the projectiles, Naruto was put on the defensive again by Mai, who continued to throw projectiles at him, keeping him from getting close to her. Is that all you got, Mai? Naruto shouted, dodging several more shuriken. I'm disappointed, I thought I'd get more of a challenge this time. How this then? Retorted Mai, forming the same set of hand seals as before and spitting out another large stream of fire from her mouth. Seeing the roaring stream of fire, Naruto smirked, much to the surprise of those watching the fight. But before any of them could even begin wonder what he was up to, the young Chunin formed 3 quick hand seals and yelled, Doten, Doruheiki, Earth style, Earth wall. Creating a large wall of earth in front of him, protecting him from the flames. Shortly after, Mai halted her fire jutsu, which was exactly what Naruto was waiting for. He then charged up his fist and used his superhuman strength to destroy the earth wall, sending large pieces of debris flying straight for the Mai, whose only option was to jump up into the air to avoid them, which was again exactly what Naruto wanted. No sooner had Mai jumped up into the air, Naruto jumped into the air after her and tacked her to the ground. In Naruto Shippuden OST, Emergence of Talents. Tsunade, Hanzo and the others. Damn, that was quick, commented Jiraiya, surprised by how easily Naruto had defeated the girl. Yosh! Exclaimed Tsunade with a smile, believing that her son had just won. Interesting strategy, Hanzo thought, unconcerned that Naruto had just tackled his granddaughter to the ground. He purposely goaded Mai into using her fire jutsu again, knowing full well that she would have to stand in a stationary position to use it, which was also why he created the earth wall. Once Mai had halted her attack, he used his enhanced strength to destroy the wall and send the debris at Mai, forcing her to jump into the air, where she would be unable to avoid him. If anything, the boy is certainly quick on his feet, Amaya remarked, who was mildly impressed with the blonde boy move. But if he thinks he has won this fight, he doesn't know my daughter as well as he thinks. Naruto and Mai. Despite that fact that she was now pinned to the ground by Naruto, Mai remained remarkably calm. In fact, she seemed rather pleased with the situation. That's my Naruto-kun. Unable to understand why Mai seemed so calm, Naruto gave the brown-haired girl a confused look, which made the Kunoichi smile. My Naruto-kun, I had no idea you were so forceful. Normally I'm the type of person who prefers to be on the top, but I guess this isn't so bad. Given how you've already got me down on the ground, how about we continue where we left off at the hospital? Ha, was Naruto's only response before fully grasping the position he was in with Mai and what she was referring to, causing his face to immediately heat up. From an observer's viewpoint, one could easily misinterpret the situation of Naruto sitting on top of Mai's pelvis and pinning her arms to the ground over her head, as something else entirely. But before he could even deny the insinuation, Mai pushed herself up and kissed him hard on the lips. Although the kiss was nowhere near as intense as their first one in the preliminaries, it still proved to be effective, catching Naruto off guard and causing his brain to temporarily go blank. After pulling back from the kiss and seeing Naruto dumbstruck look, the Kunoichi smiled. Despite Naruto's natural skill as a shinobi, he was still rather innocent when it came to being intimate with girls. This was of course another thing Mai liked about the Senju heir, finding it cute. Smiling at the still stunned blonde, Mai mouthed the word, sorry, right before she lifted her legs up into the air and in a remarkable feat of flexibility, wrapped them around Naruto's neck and flipped him off of her. Recovering quickly, Naruto flipped himself back up and jumped back several meters, putting some distance between the two of them. That was cheap trick, Mai, exclaimed Naruto, glaring at the elder girl, who just smirked back. Mai scolded, waving her finger. In case you forgot, you were the one top of me, looking down at me with those lustful eyes of yours. In fact, perhaps you should take responsibility for your actions. Responsibility. The blonde boy stuttered nervously, having an idea of what Mai was suggesting. Oh come now Naruto-kun, you're not telling that you didn't enjoy that even a little? The young Kunwachi asked with a seductive wink, which caused Naruto to turn red again and subconsciously lick his lips, which was all Mai needed. Before Naruto could respond, he was suddenly struck hard in the side of the head by a small pebble. Ow. Turning to where the pebble came from, Naruto saw his mother staring down at him with an annoyed look on her face, which Naruto guessed was because Mai had kissed him, again. Wake up Naruto and stop daydreaming. Don't let her little mind games get to you, because if you lose, I see to it that every ramen stand in Konoha is shut down. Don't lose Naruto, she's serious, yelled a now panicking Kushina, realizing that this would affect her as well. Now facing the threat of a ramen-free Konoha, Naruto quickly found a new resolve. This was now a life or death battle for him, since the threat from his mother was never to be taken lightly. At the same time, Hanzo and his party were all staring at the Konoha members, wondering if the group was crazy or simply stupid. Using his Mokuton powers, Naruto created a long wooden sword from his arm and charged at Mai. At the same time, Mai took out her foldable fans from her pouch and opened them up and yelled, Futon, Kyofu, wind style, strong wind. Creating a powerful gust of wind which blew Naruto back. She then quickly followed up with another powerful blast of wind, giving him no time to recover and sending him flying into the air and into the middle of the lake, which was exactly where Mai wanted him. After crashing into the water, and losing his wooden sword at the same time, Naruto began to channel chakra to his feet so that he could walk on the lake's surface. But as soon as he had done this, Naruto saw the water starting rise up and take the shape of an exact copy of himself. A Mizu Bunshin no Jutsu, water clone technique. The blonde wondered before hearing his mother shouting, Naruto, get out of the water now. Before Naruto could respond, the water clone charged at him, and without thinking Naruto destroyed the clone with a single punch to the face. Ha, that was pretty easy, Naruto muttered to himself, but before he could comment any further, the water clone reformed itself into two copies. What the? Naruto exclaimed before the two clones attacked, and like before Naruto destroyed them without much difficulty. But again the clones simply began to reform, doubling again. Crap, is Mai somehow behind this? Naruto wondered, glancing over at older Kunoichi, but to his surprise, the granddaughter of Hanzo was doing nothing and simply watched him from the coast. If not her, could it be her mom or one of the others? But as soon as that thought entered his head, Naruto brushed it aside. No, if they were behind this, Ka-chan, Kushina-sensei or Ero-senin would have sensed them. This must be one of those traps that Ero-senin mentioned earlier. Once the clones had full reformed, they quickly surrounded the blonde boy again and attacked. Watching from her position on the shore, Mai watched as Naruto destroyed the water clones, but each time they would simply multiple again and again. It useless Naruto-kun, although those clones may not be very strong or durable, they make up for it in their multiplying ability. Simple brute force will not be enough to defeat the Mizu Hanshin no Jutsu, water reflection technique. During their journey to the fort, Hanzo had told her of the history of the fort, including how the clan defended it. According to her grandfather, the original builders of the fort had placed a powerful jutsu on the lake, which surrounded the fort. The jutsu only activated when someone entered or touched the water, creating an exact copy of the person, which would then attack them. Individually, the clones were not very strong and could easily be destroyed. But for every clone that was destroyed, 2 more would take its place, where they would eventually overwhelm the person. The fact that there was so much water around, the number of clones was almost infinite, making it virtually impossible for an invading force to cross the lake unless they used the bridges. Using this knowledge to her advantage, Mai purposely blew Naruto into the lake so that he would activate the hidden jutsu. Knowing that in a straight head-on battle with Naruto, her chances of beating him were slim. But once he had been successfully worn down by the clones, she would then move in and blow him out of the water, allowing her to capture him. At the same time, from the outer fort walls, Tsunade and the others watched as Naruto continued struggle against the clones. Damn her, cursed Tsunade as she bit her nail in frustration. This was her plan all along. She knew she couldn't beat Naruto directly, so she's using the fort defenses to do it for her. No doubt, Jiraiya replied. I have to admit, it's a pretty good plan. Guess the kid isn't the only one who is quick on their feet. It seems your student is in a spot of trouble, Tomato-chan. Amaya mocked. Knowing that Amaya was just trying to get a rise out of her again, Kushina reined in her anger and sneered back at her rival. Don't count him out just yet, he's been in worse situations than this. Hey, guess we'll see soon enough, the Kunoiki replied, although was certain that Naruto had already lost the fight. After fighting for several minutes, a now panting Naruto looked around him to see he was now completely surrounded on all sides, by well over 100 water clones. Earlier on in the fight, he had tried to simply get off the lake and race to the fort or the shore, but each time he tried the clones would simply block his path, and even when he destroyed the clones, more would simply take their place. This is insane, no matter how many I take out, more keep appear. Naruto mentally screamed. No wonder nobody was ever able to take this fort. If I want any chance of getting out of this mess, I need to take all these clones out all at once. Knowing of only one other way to do this, Naruto deactivated his Shishiomomizuke Shiru, 4 limbs waiting seals, and took out the Raijin no Ken, Sword of the Thunder God, from his utility belt and activated it. At the same time, those watching from the fort all began to wonder what Naruto was planning after seeing him take out and activating the legendary Sword of the Nadaime Hokage. Once the bright yellow blade had appeared, Naruto jumped into the air and swung the blade down, unleashing a small blast of lightning from the blade, which hit the water and destroyed all the clones in seconds. Naruto then landed back on the surface of the lake and raced towards the fort at top speed, before the water clones could regenerate. But just as he was nearing the fort's shore, Naruto was suddenly blown back into the middle of the lake by a powerful gust of wind from Mai. Sorry Naruto-kun, but I can't let you escape just yet. Damn it Mai, Naruto growled as he stood back up, and he found himself already surrounded by the water clones, which now numbered over 200. He had been so focused on getting back onto the fort he had completely forgotten the fact that Mai would probably stop him. But what was worse was that he had dropped the Raijin no Ken into the lake after Mai hit him with her wind attack. With the Raijin no Ken now gone, Naruto decided to try something else and formed a single-hand seal and thought, time it to fight fire with fire. But no sooner had he yelled, Taju Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, multiple shadow clone technique. He heard his mother shouting at him, telling him to stop, but by then it was already too late as 100 Naruto clones appeared around him. At the same time as the clones appeared, 100 more water clones appeared, adding to the number of the clones. Shit. Naruto cried after realizing his mistake. He never considered the possibility that by creating his own clone army, he would also create even more water clones. Originally he had hoped that he could use his own clones to act as a barrier and hold off the water clones long enough to allow him to escape to the other side of the lake. But now there were simply too many clones to get by and he couldn't simply destroy them, since they would just multiple even more. Now outnumbered 3-1, Naruto tried to think of a new way to get out of the trap, while his clones held off the water replicas. Damn it, how the hell do I get out of this? Think Naruto, think, there has to be a way to get out of this mess. This jutsu is obviously water-based, since it creates only water clones and it only activated when I stepped on the water. At that moment Naruto suddenly realized something. Wait, for a jutsu like this, for it to work on such a large scale, there's only one way for it stay activate on its own for so long without anyone to maintain it. Having now realized how the jutsu worked, Naruto knew what he needed to do, where he used the Kuchio's no jutsu, summoning technique, to summon Gamatatsu and Gamakichi. When he had finished explaining what he wanted them to do, the two toads nodded their heads and went underwater to begin their search. After they had left, Naruto then ordered his clones to go on the offensive so to buy some time, making those who were watching him wonder what he was up. Creating another wooden sword from his arm, Naruto joined his clones in their battle against the water clones, destroying any that came close to him. This continued for 20 minutes, but as time went on, one by one his clones were overwhelmed by the water clones and were pulled underwater and disappear. What's Naruto-kun thinking? Surely by now he knows that fighting the clones like this is pointless, the Kunoichi remarked silently. She continued to watch Naruto and his clones as they were slowly overwhelmed by the water clones' numbers until only the originally Naruto was left, surrounded by at least 500 clones. But just as all the water clones were about to attack him, they suddenly all reverted back into water, much to the surprise and confusion of everyone watching. Shortly after the water replicas had returned to their original state, Gamatatsu and Gamakichi emerged out of the water. Thanks guys, I owe you both big time, although you kind of cut it close there. Sorry about that, but it took a while for us to find it, Gamakichi replied. Nodding in understanding, Naruto thanked the two toads again, after which he then took out 2 small pieces of candy and tossed it to them, as per their agreement, after which the two toads returned to their home in a puff of smoke. Back at the shore, everyone was still reeling from the shock that Naruto had somehow negated the Mizu Hansha no Jutsu. Mai, of course, was the most surprised out of everyone. She had been certain that the Mizu Hansha no Jutsu would win the fight for her. But just when it looked like Naruto would lose, he somehow found a way to cancel the jutsu. How did he do it? Ranted the girl inside her head, but before she could even think of how he did it, she saw Naruto racing towards her at high speed. Enter Naruto Shippuden OST 18 Sunspot. Wasting no time, Mai brought up both her fans and swung them together, yelling, Futon, Nibai Kyofu, wind style, double strong wind. Creating a powerful blast of wind. But Naruto was ready for this, and as soon as Mai had unleashed her attack, he used his momentum to jump up high into the air, avoiding the powerful wind attack. After which he then channeled his own chakra into his wooden sword and converted into wind, where he swung his sword downward and unleashed a large crescent-shaped blade of wind. Seeing the high-speed wind attack, Mai quickly jumped to her right to avoid it. But as soon as she did, Naruto appeared on her right and swung his wooden sword at her, hitting her hard in the side and sending her skidding across the ground. Pressing his advantage, Naruto sent another high-speed blade of wind at Mai, but like before she was able to avoid it, if only narrowly. She then quickly counterattacked by waving her fans and creating another powerful gust of wind, which Naruto avoided. He then took out a set of kuni and threw them at Mai, who dodged them all successful, although lost one of her fans in the process, which now had a large hole in it. Tossing the now ruined fan away, Mai took out several kunai from her pouch and threw them at Naruto. At the same time she then channeled her wind chakra into her fan, creating a large gust of wind, greatly increasing the projectile's speed and attacking power. Knowing he couldn't avoid the projectiles in time, Naruto channeled his chakra to his feet so that he wouldn't be blown away by the wind attack and raised his wooden sword. He then used the wooden to block the fist kuni, while the remaining two cut his right arm and left leg when they flew past him. But thankfully they were only shallow cuts and would not diminish his ability to fight. Seeing this, Mai raced forward and activated the spike tips on her fan and attempted to slash him across the chest, but missed when Naruto jumped back. He then countered by channeling his wind chakra to his wooden sword, increasing its range and cutting power, forcing Mai to jump back several meters. After being forced to jump away from Naruto, Mai formed several one-handed hand seals and inhaled deeply, expelling a large ball of flames, which was made even bigger when Mai combined it with her Kyofu technique. With only seconds to act, Naruto quickly began to draw the large amounts of water from the lake around him and used the Senkai no Mizu, swirling water, sword technique to create a giant spinning water spout around himself, protecting him from the superheated flames. When the two techniques had cancelled each other out, a thick cloud of steam covered much of the space around the two young shinobi, keeping them from seeing each other. Fearing that Naruto might try to use the steam cloud to his advantage, Mai planned to blow the steam away with her wind attack. But before she could enact her plan, her senses suddenly warned her of danger. Listening to her senses, Mai moved, allowing her to evade the deadly water blades which appeared behind her. But no sooner as she had avoided them, a blurry figure appeared on her left and kicked her in her side, cracking at least one rib and sending flying out of the steam cloud and crashing to the ground, hard. End Naruto Shippuden OST 18 Sunspot. Damn it, thought Mai as she slowly picked herself up, holding her side in pain, while picking up her one remaining fan off the ground. At the same Naruto emerged out of the steam cloud with his wooden sword in hand. Realizing the danger she was in, Mai channeled her chakra into her fan again and swung it, creating yet another strong gust of wind, kicking up the sand, temporarily blinding Naruto, thus allowing her to move away. Once the sand died down, Naruto quickly located Mai, standing several meters away from where he was. Hey, not bad Naruto-kun, you got me good there with that last hit, Mai remarked while holding her tender side. Not good enough it would seem, Naruto replied with a small smirk. Smirking back, Mai then folded her fan back up and placed it back in her pouch, which made Naruto curious as to what she was up to. I have to admit I didn't think you would escape the lake, how exactly did you do it? Simple, Naruto replied, a jutsu like that is basically one big barrier that keeps people from entering or leaving by the lake, and there are only 3 ways to activate and maintain a jutsu of that scale and size. The first 2 are by a single user or a group of users activating the jutsu and maintaining it with a constant flow of chakra. Given how this fort is abandoned, that would be impossible, so the only other way for that jutsu to remain working is by placing seal tags around the lake in specific locations. I see, said Mai, while beginning to understanding how Naruto did it. But that still doesn't explain how you cancelled the jutsu. Like I said, the jutsu works by placing seal tags around the lake in specific locations. Naruto answered, I figured that by removing one of the tags, I would break the connection with the other tags around the lake, causing the jutsu collapsed. But how did you know where the tags were located? I didn't, Naruto replied, causing Mai to look at him in confusion. Since the jutsu involved the lake and making water clones, it made sense that the tags were hidden at the bottom of the lake, so I summoned some toads to search the lake for a tag, while I kept those water clones busy. When Naruto finished his explanation, most of the entourage, including Hanzo, couldn't help but be impressed with Naruto's resourcefulness, and how he had fingered out the Mizu Hanshin no Jutsu, especially when considering the situation he had been in earlier. Seeing that Naruto was already proving himself worthy to her family, Mai began to smile. Hey, you never fail to impress Naruto-kun, but then again, that's another thing I like about you, so why don't we take things up a notch? After which she bit her figure and began to form her hand seals. Recognizing the hand set, Naruto immediately realized what Mai was planning and raced over to stop her. But by the time he crossed half the distance between them, Mai finished her hand set and slammed her hand onto the ground and yelled, Kuchio's no jutsu, summoning technique. Creating a large cloud of smoke. Enter Magi OST Val's hot. Realizing he was too late, Naruto immediately jumped back away from the smoke. When the smoke dissipated, Naruto saw Mai standing atop a large crimson-red salamander with yellow stripes on its back, and was easily the size of a large house. Holy shit, that thing's huge, thought Naruto in surprise. Watching from above, Tsunade and the other members of her group stared at the large summons in disbelief. She can summon the salamanders as well, Tsunade explained, surprised by the fact that Mai not only could summon the salamanders, but that Hanzo had let her sign the contract to his trademark summons to begin with. This could be trouble, Kushina muttered, while Jiraiya simply stared down at the girl with a frown, before glancing at the Am group, who seemed rather pleased with the turn of events. Hanzo though remained void of any such emotions and continued to watch his granddaughter. Now the real battle begins. So Naruto-kun, what do you think of my summons? A smiling Mai asked as she looked down at the blonde boy, who looked more than a bit worried. Hey, wait a minute, since when did you learn how to summon? Yelled Naruto. Since before the Chunin exam, Mai answered, shrugging as if there was nothing wrong with it. Then you were holding back at the Chunin exam too, retorted the Senju heir angrily, since he was more than a little peeved with the news, especially since Mai had given him such grief about him holding back in their fight. That is a completely different matter from this, retorted Mai, huffing, while folding her arms underneath her chest, inadvertently highlighting her breasts. It's not like I could summon my salamanders in such a small and confined space like the preliminary arena. She got me there, Naruto thought, slightly embarrassed, since he hadn't thought of that. But still it wasn't like his reasons for holding back on her were any different, since Orochimaru Curse Seal prevented him from properly molding and controlling his chakra. But before he could respond, he suddenly heard Mai shout, "Kine, Okibi, blazing fire." Fuck. The blonde boy mentally screamed when he saw the large summons take a deep breath and exhale a massive blast of fire from its large mouth. Acting fast, Naruto used his Mokuton powers to create a large wooden dome around himself, protecting him from the flames. "That won't protect you," shouted Mai, taking out her fan and channeling her wind chakra into it, yelling, "Futon, Kyofu, wind style, strong wind." As she swung it, increasing the flame's power. Within seconds the now superheated flames had reduced the wooden dome to ashes. But when Kine halted his attack and as the flames around the dome died down, Mai noticed that there was no sign of Naruto, only a hole in the ground. Shit, thought Mai, realizing what Naruto had done, and quickly turned around to see him emerge from the ground behind them while raising his sword in preparation of his Surasufu, wind-slash, technique. But before he could perform the technique, Mai shouted to her summons, who then slapped the Senju air into the lake with his long tail. After which he then fired another wind-enhanced fire attack at the blonde boy, forcing Naruto to duck underneath the water for safety. After pulling himself out of the water, Naruto was surprised to see the large summons moving across the surface of the water at speed that should have been impossible for something his size. With only seconds to act, Naruto formed a single-hand seal and yelled, "Taju Kage Bunshin no Jutsu," creating a small army of clones, which then surrounded the Kunoichi and her summons. Wanting to finish off the clone army quickly, Mai ordered Kine to fire another fire blast. She then used her wind technique to manipulate the flames to circle around them, destroying the clone army. Shortly after the flames began to die down, the real Naruto jumped out of the water and hit Mai with a strong drop kick to the face. But the moment his kick made contact, Mai reverted into water, revealing that she had replaced herself with a water clone, while the real one appeared behind him and kicked him in the back, sending him crashing back into the water. End Magi OST Vals Hot. Enter Hayaka Rairan Samurai Girls OST Arata Na Master Samurai. After kicking Naruto into the water, Mai maintained her position atop her summon while she searched for any sign of her fiancé, knowing he would have to resurface sooner or later. After a minute or so of waiting, the Mai started to feel anxious and yelled, "Come out, Naruto-kun. Don't tell me you're giving up already," hoping to draw him out. Shortly after saying this, the young Kunoichi saw a dozen large wooden tentacles emerge from underneath the water, surrounding her and her summons. Moments after the wooden tentacles appeared, Naruto along with a large number of wood clones, carrying wooden swords, sprung out from the wooden tentacles and yelled, "Giving up. We've only just begun to fight," right before he had his clones attack. At the same time Naruto had his wooden tentacles attack Mai's summons, wrapping themselves around the large summon, restricting his movements. "Kaen!" shouted Mai before she saw Naruto's clones racing along the wooden tentacles towards her. With her summons now restrained, and multiple attackers coming at her from all sides, Mai created several water clones to support her. After which she then took out her one remaining fan and swung it, creating a strong blast of wind which blew 3 wood clones back. After ordering her clones to hold Naruto's other remaining clones off, Mai jumped off her summons and moved towards the real Naruto, who was keeping his distance from her. Seeing the elder girl racing towards him, Naruto sent his remaining wooden tentacles to intercept her, which she avoided with remarkable grace, using her acrobatic skill. But just as she was nearing him, the 3 clones she had dealt with earlier appeared out of the water and blocked her path. Unwilling to let the clones stop her, Mai attempted to destroy the lead clone with a strong drop kick to the face. But to her surprise, the clone proved more durable than she had expected and blocked her kick with its one arm and then pushed her back. The second clone then finished her off with one blow with an enhanced axe kick when her feet touched the water's surface. Seeing the clone, Mai avoided the kick by jumping further back, although as she hung in midair the third clone fired several wood spikes from its hand. Acting fast, Mai brought up her fan and channeled her chakra into it as she swung it, creating a powerful gust of wind. Also at the same time she threw a kunai with an exploding note tied to it, which denoted when it hit the clone, destroying it instantly. But as soon as the clone was destroyed, Mai was put on the defensive again by the 2 remaining clones. For the next few minutes Mai continued to fight with the two wood clones, dodging or blocking their attacks while trying to strike back. But all her attempts failed and she was constantly kept on the defensive. Under most circumstances she could have defeated the clones without too much difficulty, but they were surprisingly more resilient than most clones and they worked together to support one another, where if one would attack the other defended. Leaving Mai little openings to exploit, it was made even more difficult since she also had to deal with the wooden tentacles that Naruto was controlling at the same time. After a short while Mai noticed that the last of her water clones had been destroyed by Naruto's other wood clones and were now converging on her from all directions. Realizing that she needed to do something fast, Mai jumped up into the air to avoid another one of Naruto's wooden tentacles and then used said tentacle as a springboard to propel her up higher into the air. After which she then yelled, "Kai no Kibi." Heading his master's order, the large salamander took a deep breath and spat out a massive stream of fire, incinerating most of the wood clones and the wood tentacles that were in range of his attack. At the same time, Mai threw several kunai with exploding notes at the few remaining wood tentacles that were restraining Kain and detonated them, freeing her summons from their bind. When Mai landed back onto the surface of the water, the last of Naruto's clones raced towards her. With little time to waste, the Kunoichi brought up her fan again and used it to create a large gust of wind, which in turn created a large wave of water. Using the wave as a distraction, Mai took out the last of her kunai with exploding notes tied to them and threw them at the wood clones when they moved to avoid the large wave, hitting one of them. She then activated the exploding notes, causing them to explode, taking out a second clone along with the first. With two clones now gone, Mai prepared for the remaining three, but before she could do anything, several vines wrapped themselves around her right leg and arm. Turning, Mai saw the real Naruto standing several meters away from her, smirking as he held his arm out, which were connected to the vines that were wrapped around her. "Damn it, I was careless." The Kunoichi mental berated. Realizing she couldn't fight off Naruto's approaching clones like this, Mai dropped her fan and bit her finger and started forming one-handed hand seals with her one remaining free hand. If this works, it would use up most of my remaining chakra, but I've got no choice. Just as the clones were right on top of her, Mai finished her hand seal and slammed her hand onto the surface of the water, shouting, "Kuchio's no jutsu," and creating a large cloud of smoke, forcing Naruto's clones to move back. End Hayaka Raya and Samurai Girls OST Arata Na Master Samurai. What's she summoned this time? Thought Naruto, seeing the smoke and feeling the vines he had created break. When the smoke cleared, Naruto saw Mai standing atop yet another salamander, just as big as the first but was blue in color with large black spots on its back. I don't believe it, she can summon another summons of that size. Even after all the fighting she has been doing, Tsunade exclaimed in surprise. That girl is something else, to be doing something like that at her age, Jiraiya remarked silently, before glancing at Hanzo. But then again, she is his granddaughter after all. Hey, looks like your student is in trouble again, Tomato-chan, Amaya mocked. Glaring at her nemesis, Kushina then pointed at the Mai. That's funny, I was about to say the exact same thing about your daughter, since she doesn't look like she doing too well either. Turning, Amaya saw her daughter kneeling atop her new summons, breathing heavily, indicating that she had used up most of her remaining chakra in summoning the large salamander. That may be so, added Hanzo. But it does not change the fact that Mai now has the advantage with her summons, while your son Tsunade has only 3 clones to help him. Perhaps, Tsunade replied, but my son has faced far more difficult situations and survived them, so don't count him out just yet. After Mai had summoned her new summons, Naruto saw the brown-haired girl fall to her knees breathing heavily, indicating that she had used up most of her remaining chakra in summoning the creature and was now reaching her limits. Seeing an opportunity to end the battle, Naruto had his remaining clones attack. But before the clones could reach her, Mai yelled, "Squall, Maizuritsu, violent water." See. Hearing Mai's order, the large summon opened its mouth and spat out a massive stream of water, hitting 2 of Naruto's clones with incredible force, destroying them instantly. The third clone had managed to get away by going underwater and emerged behind the large summon. But as soon as he had emerged out of the water, the clone was destroyed and reduced to ashes by a fire blast from Mai's first summon Kain, who joined Mai and Squall. Once all of Naruto's clones were destroyed, Mai took out a soldier pill from her pouch to replenish her chakra reserves. She then ordered Squall to fire another powerful water blast at the real Naruto, who then tried to block it using Mokujoheiki, wood-locking wall. But he underestimated the power of the water attack, which shattered the wooden dome before it could fully form, sending him flying across the lake. Slowly picking himself up out of the water, Naruto checked himself for any injuries. Fortunately for him, the partially formed wood dome had taken the brunt of the attack, with the exception of feeling a little tender all over and his coat being in tatters. He was in relatively decent condition. Geez, now I'm going have to replace this, again, Naruto muttered, looking at the state of his coat. Luckily though, ever since the Chunin exam, he had several spare coats made in the event that they were ruined like the original. After he had finished looking himself over, Naruto immediately jumped to his right, narrowly avoiding a deadly fire blast from Kain, followed by another powerful water blast from Squall, which he again narrowly evaded. Shit, that was close, Naruto said to himself. But still, what was wrong with me? I suddenly feel heavy and my movements are starting to get sluggish. It must be the after effects of being hit by that water attack. Before Naruto could ponder the matter as to why his movements were getting so sluggish, he noticed a shadow suddenly appear above him. Looking up, Naruto saw Mai falling down towards him while performing a falling axe kick. With seconds to act, Naruto barely managed to evade Mai's kick by leaping back, and began to perform hand seals. When he finished, Naruto thought, Suten, Teppadama, water style, gunshot. But instead of firing football-size water balls, the balls were only the size golf balls. What the? Thought Naruto, right before he was punched hard in the stomach by Mai, who appeared right in front of him and then kicked him in face, sending the blonde skidding across the water. By the time Naruto recovered and was back on his feet, he was put on the defensive again by Mai, who engaged him in a fierce taijutsu battle. Naruto tried his best to hold his own, but was slowly losing as his movements got slower and slower, causing him to take several severe hits. After being kneed hard in the stomach, Naruto landed a few meters away from Mai, barely managing to keep himself afloat on the lake surface. At the same time, he also found himself surrounded by Mai's two summonses. Poison! Exclaimed Naruto, realizing the reason for his delayed reaction time and why he was unable to perform his jutsu correctly. Seeing that Naruto had finally realized what was happening to him, Mai smiled and nodded, since there was no point in denying it, since it was obvious. When was it? Naruto asked. Was it when you cut me with your kunai earlier in the fight? Oh no, it was much earlier than, Mai replied with a knowing wink, causing Naruto's eyes to widen. The kiss, said Naruto, while blushing slightly at the memory, where he received another wink from Mai, indicating he was right. Correct, I coated my lips with the poison, and as you've already guessed, the poison I have used is a slow-acting toxin that not only reducing your movements, but interferes with your chakra control. I honestly didn't think I would need it, since I was certain that the Mizu Hanshin no Jutsu would defeat you. But I learned from past experiences not to underestimate you, and as a friend of yours once said, while one ace in the hole is good, two aces are better. But how are you not affected by it? Well, you're not the only one who can inherit certain traits from their family, Mai answered cryptically. You have a bloodline limit. Not exactly, Mai replied, where after receiving a confused look from Naruto, decided to explain further. Many years ago, back when my granddaughter was a young boy, there was a black salamander which was native to our village and was famous for the deadly poison its body produced. After its death, our village elders had its venom sac implanted into my grandfather's body in the hopes of creating a venomous shinobi who himself was immune to toxins. It worked. It also granted him the ability to create the same poison from his mouth. It also had unexpected side effect, where my grandfather was able to pass some of the traits he received onto my mother and me. Although I cannot produce salamander's poison like him, I am resistant to most poisons and toxins. When Mai finished, Naruto silently cursed his luck, since if things weren't bad enough, this made things even more difficult for him. Any of the poisons he had considered using against Mai at the moment were now most likely useless. Come on Naruto, you can still win, don't give up, yelled Kushina, cheering him on. Not only because the blonde boy was her student, but because she couldn't stand the idea of her student losing to the daughter of her sworn rival. Hey, save your breath Tamato-chan, this battle is over. Glaring at the dark-haired woman, Kushina retorted, don't count my student out yet, he'll turn this thing around and be wiping the floor with your bimbo of daughter before you even know it. Sneering back at Kushina, Amaya replied. Hey, you're deluding yourself if you believe that Mai-chan has him at her mercy. Hey, I seem to remember my student handing your daughter's ass to her when they fought at the preliminaries, and didn't even have the full use of his chakra at the time. Scowling at the mention of Mai's earlier loss, Amaya retorted, this time is different, Mai-chan was unaware of the full extent of his abilities. Besides, she didn't reveal her true abilities either, and she's a lot stronger than she was back then. Sounds like an excuse to me, Kushina sneered, infuriating Amaya further. Just like the one you gave after I kicked your sorry ass at the Tsunade finals. You lucked out and you know it, Tomato-chan. Amaya retorted angrily, since she didn't like being remained of her first fight with Kushina, which she lost. Besides, in case you forgot, I had you begging for mercy at Kojima Pass. If it wasn't for your boyfriend saving your sorry ass, you would have been dead. Jeeg, I wasn't begging, and you know it, if it wasn't for your poison, I would have finished you. Hey, now who's making excuses? Taunted Amaya. You want to start something here? Kushina threatened, taking a step closer to her nemesis. Anytime, bitch. Snarled Amaya, as she also took a step closer to the Konoha Kunoichi, where the two of them were once again clashing foreheads with one another, with lightning emanating out of their eyes. For a moment or two, the two glared at one another. But just when it looked like they were about to go at it again, they suddenly turned to Naruto and Mai's direction and started yelling. Come on Naruto, kick her ass. Slaughter him Mai-chan. If you lose Naruto, the training I have in mind for you will make hell look like a vacation. No mercy Mai-chan. While the two women continued to cheer, threaten their respected students, everyone else that was watching the match shook their heads from embarrassment, wishing they had left the two mad women back home. So Naruto-kun, do you surrender? Smirking, Naruto responded, what do you think? After which he then took out several smoke bombs and threw them in all directions. Seeing this, Mai ordered her two summoners to attack, causing a massive explosion of fire and water, and creating a thick cloud of red-hot steam. Moving away from the steam cloud, Mai began to search for any sign of Naruto, but found none. Where is he? He can't have stayed inside the cloud, he be cooked, unless... Realizing where Naruto had gone, Mai allowed herself to fall into the water, quickly locating her fiancé, who was swimming in the opposite direction of her. Once she had located Naruto, the granddaughter of Hanzo smirked, since Blonde had just made a fatal error. Fighting underwater was a speciality of her village, and like all members of her village, Mai was well versed in underwater combat. At the same time, Naruto was desperately trying to swim to a safer location. Even before Mai had told him of the effects of the poison she had used on him. Naruto had already realized that the poison was a paralyzing type toxin, which explained why his movements were slowing down, and why his chakra control was so screwed up. Fortunately for Naruto, these types of poisons were what he specialized in, which also meant he had a means to fight it. After creating the smoke cloud, Naruto also took the antidote to one of his own poisons. Without knowing the exact poison that Mai had used, Naruto knew he could not completely remove the effects of the toxin. But it would at least fight the poison and reduce its effects, allowing him to continue fighting until he got a cure, although it would take several minutes for antidote to take effect, which was why he was distancing himself from Mai and her summoners. Unfortunately, before Naruto to get to a safer location, he came under attack from Mai, who seemed to move at almost lightning-like speed underwater. Naruto of course tried his best to resist, but even without the effects of the poison, his movements were much too slow underwater to even connect with Mai, who was running circles around him. Knowing he stood no chance of beating Mai underwater, Naruto tried to swim to the surface, but was stopped by the elder girl, who kicked him hard in the face, forcing him further back down. Once he had recovered from the kick, Naruto attempted to confuse Mai with some shadow clones. But when he tried to create the clones, the jutsu failed, and the only thing he managed to create was a small explosion of bubbles around him. Shit. Even with the antidote reducing the effects of the toxin, my chakra control is still shot. I need more time for it to take effect. Just when Naruto thought things couldn't get any worse, Mai's two summons Squall and Kine appeared and began attacking him, moving the same high speed as Mai. After moving to avoid Squall's large mouth, when the large summons attempted to swallow him whole, Naruto made another attempt to reach the surface. But was forced back down by Kine, where the large summons appeared directly over him, and swung his tail at him. Shortly after, Mai then appeared in front of him and punched him hard in the stomach, causing Naruto to lose most of his remaining oxygen. Damn it, I'm going to lose if I don't do something quick, but how can I fight back when I still can't use my chakra? I haven't refilled my chakra storage seals yet. At that moment, while trying to figure out what he could do, Naruto suddenly heard a familiar voice chuckling from the back of his mind. Hey, you really are a pitiful creature, you know that. Losing to that female like this. QB? Asked Naruto, recognizing the voice, where he then found himself in the same underground room as before, with the QB's prison in front of him. Who else would it be? Replied the demon fox, where his glowing red eyes and massive mouth, covered in red chakra, appeared before Naruto. What do you want? In case you haven't noticed, I kind of busy. Yes, I can see, you're allowing yourself to lose to this worthless female, who you already defeated before. Fuck you, you stupid fox, it's not like I'm losing on purpose, and in case you haven't noticed, I'm at a disadvantage with being underwater and my chakra control is messed up. Annoyed by Naruto's words, the QB began to growl a little. Watch your mouth, brat. You should be more gratefully, especially since I'm the reason you're still alive, and I am about to help you, again. What's the catch? Naruto asked, knowing that the QB only helped him when it was in his interest, like during in the invasion. There's no catch, at least not this time. The fact is I find this little match of your amusing, so I will help you this one time for free and supply you with a limited amount of my chakra. After that you are on your own, so I suggest you use it wisely and not lose. I will not stand for my container to lose to a female. Not wanting to look a gift horse in the mouth, Naruto simply nodded and waited to accept the beast's chakra, knowing exactly what he was going to use it for. Upon waking back up in the real world, Naruto saw Mai moving toward him again at high speed, intending to finish their battle with one last strike. With only one option left remaining to him, Naruto bit his right finger and started performing hand seals. Recognizing the hand set, Mai halted her advance, this could be trouble, and started to swim away, while signaling her summons to do the same, having an idea of what Naruto was about to do. Enter Naruto Shippuden OST My name. When Naruto finished the hand seals, he brought his right hand up and thought, Kuchio's no jutsu. Creating a massive explosion of bubbles. Back at the fort, Tsunade, Hanzo and other members of their respected groups watched as a massive explosion erupted in the lake where a gigantic figure emerged from it, causing lake water to rain down on top. What the? Cried Kanduki, not understanding what was happening, as he covered his face from the falling water. He of course was not the only one, as both Hanzo and his daughter Amaya looked equally surprised and confused by what was happening. Damn kid, you're really holding back nothing this time, Jiraiya silently chuckled, when he got a clear look of the massive figure, revealing that Naruto had summoned Gamabunta. Tsunade and Kushina on the other hand just grinned at one another, since once again Naruto had turned the tables. Impossible, a shocked Amaya thought when she saw Gamabunta, just how much chakra does that kid have? Recognizing the massive toad boss, from when he fought the Sannin, the aged leader of Am frowned. After returning to Am, Mai had told him everything that had happened during the exam and the invasion, including the story of Naruto being able to summon both the toad boss Gamabunta and the slug queen Katsuyu. When Hanzo first heard this, he had naturally been skeptical of that part of the story and chalked it up to the people over-exaggerating the boy's abilities. Given how it was unheard of for someone Naruto's age to summon such massive summons, let alone two of them. But upon seeing the massive summons with his own eyes, he quickly realized just how wrong he had been. So the stories Mai told were true after all, he really can summon Gamabunta, and if that the case, then it's likely that the rumor of him being able to summon Katsuyu are also true. He's more dangerous than I feared. With the rebel Am. What is that thing? Asked one of the Am nins staring at the massive toad summons that was towering over them. I don't believe it, if I'm not mistaken, that's one of Jiraiya's Sama toad summons, the leader replied, sweating a little, as he was just shocked as the rest of his company were. But how can a kid like him summon something that huge? It's crazy. Said another Am shinobi. I don't know, but the boy was trained by two members of the Densetsu no Sannin, legendary 3 ninja, and is the first person to be born with Mokuton. The same bloodline limit of the legendary Shodai Hokage. We shouldn't be surprised by anything he does. With Naruto and Mai. After being summoned, the toad boss Gamabunta took a look around of his surroundings before looking up at Naruto, who looked to be fairly worn out after using the QB's chakra, and realized that Naruto had summoned him again. Naruto, why have you summoned me here? demanded the toad boss. Before Naruto could answer the massive toad, Mai and her two summons appeared out from underneath the water. She then ordered Kine and Squall to fire their respected attacks together, combining their two attacks together into a massive superheated water blast that she enhanced using her fan, which she recovered earlier on in the fight. Seeing the attack, the large toad quickly sidestepped the attack to avoid it. After which Naruto spoke, "I'll explain what's going on later, boss Toad, I promise, but right now, I really need you to help me out here." "Fine," grunted the large toad, accepting Naruto's answer for now, but before he could say anything more, he was forced to jump high up into the air after Mai and her summons fired another combination attack. After landing back on the lake, causing another massive shower of water to fall on the spectators, Gamabunta turned around and drew his short sword and swung it down at the two salamanders. Acting fast, the two salamanders split apart from one another and attempted to attack the toad boss from opposite sides. Realizing what they were doing, Gamabunta moved forward to avoid the fire and water attacks and then spun around with his sword in an attempt to cut them both in half with one massive swing. But by the time he spun around, the two creatures had already retreated back into the water again with their master. For the next few minutes the battle continued like this, where the three summons battle for superiority. Although Gamabunta was superior in size and power, the two salamanders made up for this by using their smaller size to their advantage. Using their superior speed to avoid Gamabunta's attacks and maneuver around him, allowing them to attack him from multiple different directions, while at the same time combining their attacks, making them more powerful. "Damn it, this is getting us nowhere, I need to get out of this lake," Gamabunta muttered as he jumped high up into the air and out of the lake, landing on the surrounding forestry, narrowly avoiding the rebel shinobi, whom he was unaware of. "Naruto, I'm going to need your help with this," Gamabunta shouted, before he formed a single-hand seal and thought, Gamayuden, toad oil bullet, spitting out a huge mass of oil which quickly covered much of the lake water. "Right," shouted Naruto, where he then took out an exploding note and tossed it into the oil and activated it, causing the oil to ignite. "Shit," cursed Mai when she saw the oil covering the surface of the lake, where she and Squall were forced to dive back underwater to avoid the oil and the flames, which enveloped much of the water's surface, turning it into a lake of fire. Her other summon Kine, however, was caught in the oil, and due to its sticky texture was unable to go underwater in time to avoid the flames when they ignited the oil. But just when Gamabunta and Naruto thought they had dealt with one of the salamanders, a sudden massive blast of fire erupted from the flaming lake, nearly hitting Gamabunta square in the face. Upon closer inspection of the flames, the two saw Kine standing in the middle of the burning inferno, unharmed by the flames, revealing that due to his nature as a fire salamander, Kine was resistant to fire attacks. But before Gamabunta or Naruto could do anything about it, the red salamander went right back underneath the water. Shortly after the fire died down, Kine reappeared with Mai and Squall, where the red salamander unleashed another powerful blast of fire, which Mai enhanced using her Kyofu technique, igniting parts of the forest in flames as it flew towards the toad boss and Naruto. Jumping once again into the air, Gamabunta formed a signal hand seal and used Tepidama, gunshot, to fire a massive condensed ball of water from his mouth, extinguishing the forest flames, while at the same time destroying a large number of trees in the process, thanks to the force of the attack. At the same time, the rebel shinobi were moving around through the forestry, trying desperately not to be caught in the crossfire of the three summons, while at the same time remaining hidden. "This is insane," yelled one Nin. "What kind of battle is this? They're changing the entire landscape." "Those kids aren't normal," shouted another shinobi. "They're monsters." "What do you expect?" said an kunoiki, the offspring of monsters. "Enough all of you," cried the company leader, "we need to get out of here now, otherwise we'll be exposed, or worse, be caught in their battle and be killed. But we can't go by the northern bridge, if we go that way we'll be seen and exposed, since the surrounding trees there have been destroyed thanks to that red salamander's fire attack, and the eastern bridge is right in the line of sight of Hanzo and the others," said one of the other shinobi. "Then we'll go around the lake and take the southern bridge," the company leader replied. "It may take longer, but it's safer at least. We can still sneak up on Hanzo and the others, and by the time they have realized what's going on, it will be too late." Once everyone understood what they were to do, the rebel shinobi stealthily made their way around the fort, while making sure to not get caught up in the battle between Mai, Naruto and their summonses. After extinguishing the forest flames and landing back on the ground, Gamabunta fired another shot at Mai and her summons, but before the attacks could hit, the Kunoiki and her summoners dived back into the water and swam away. Unwilling to give Mai and her summoners any more chances to attack, Gamabunta fired another volley of water balls all across the lake, causing huge amounts of water to fly up into the air before falling back down, flooding the fort and the surrounding shore in water. But despite the collateral damage done from the attacks, Gamabunta achieved his goal, where the now disorientated Mai and her summoners were pushed back up into the surface of the lake. Seeing this as a chance to finally end the battle, Gamabunta once more jumped up high into the air and attempted to squash the salamander as fell back down into the lake. Realizing the danger, Mai, who had fallen off Squall during Gamabunta's attacks, grabbed onto Kine and held onto him as he moved out of the way of the falling toad. Squall, who was still distorted from the earlier attack, was not as lucky, where the water salamander could not move out of the way in time and was forced to return home, barely avoiding being squashed, leaving Kine and Mai alone to face the Toad Boss and Naruto. End Naruto Shippuden OST. My name. Damn it all. Cursed Mai, looking at the giant toad directly opposite her, knowing that without Squall to back her and Kine up, their chances of defeating Gamabunta were greatly reduced. So this is the strength of the famed boss toad. It's incredible. If only I could summon Ibus, I could stand a better chance. But I don't have enough chakra to do that. Seeing that things had finally calmed down a bit, Gamabunta decided that now was the time to get some answers. Okay brat, now it's time for you to tell me what is going on here. Who is that girl and why can she summon the salamanders? Her name is Hattori Mai, and she is the granddaughter of Sanshou no Hanzo. Hanzo's granddaughter, exclaimed the Toad Boss in surprise, having no idea that the infamous leader of AM had any offspring, let alone a grandchild. Yes, I see, that would explain things, but why are you fighting her? Well, you see, that's kind of a long story, Naruto replied nervously, since he wasn't sure how to explain the situation to Gamabunta without it being misunderstood. But before he could think of an appropriate explanation, Mai decided to answer for Naruto. I'm his fiancé, that's why. His fiancé, yelled Gamabunta in surprise, before looking up at Naruto, who was silently cursing Mai for opening her big mouth. Naruto, is she serious? Well, yay, but it's more complicated than she makes out to be, Naruto replied quickly, trying to calm the giant toad down. But before he could explain any further, an annoyed Gamabunta interrupted him. So you're telling me that you summoned me here, and had me fight those annoying salamanders, simply because you two are having a lover's spat? But at the same time as he said this, the boss toad also thought, a fiancé already. Damn, this kid moves fast, that perverted idiot Jiraiya must be loving this. Wait please, it's not what you think, yelled Naruto, who was now blushing after Gamabunta called him and Mai lovers. At the same time, those watching the battle all had large sweat drops on the back of their head as they continued to watch Naruto argue with his summon. Tsunade and the other Konoha members had the decency to look embarrassed, while Hanzo had his party shook there in disbelief. This proved what they had already suspected, the shinobi of Konoha were all idiots. After a few more minutes of arguing, Naruto was finally able to convince Gamabunta to stay on and help him finish the fight. Tisk. Alright fine, I'll help you out this time, but I expect some compensation in return, and you better not summon me for something like things again. I've no interest in being caught up in another lover's quarrel between you and your girlfriend. Fine, groaned Naruto, not wanting to get into another argument with the boss toad, which was why he didn't bother correcting him about Mai being his girlfriend. I knew I should have summoned Katsuyu, at least then I wouldn't have to deal with all this crap. But as soon as Naruto had thought this, he fell onto his rear after Gamabunta was suddenly hit by a powerful wind-enhanced fire blast from Mai and her summons. Ow, that hurt, yelled the Toad Boss, as he moved back. Seeing that their attack hit, Mai had Kine use his superior speed to circle around the massive toad, and attack him from multiple different directions. Gamabunta of course tried to force them back, but due to Kine's superior speed and smaller size, the large toad couldn't land a solid hit, and received several scorch marks across his body for his trouble. Having enough of this, Gamabunta redrew his Dosu sword and dipped it into the lake. He then spun around, creating a large circular wave around him, which sent Mai and Kine crashing back on the beach of the fort, near where the fight first begun. Time to end this, you stupid flunky, yelled Gamabunta as he swung his sword down on top of the red salamander. Knowing that her summons would not be able to avoid it in time, Mai quickly ordered the salamander to return home, where he disappeared in a puff of smoke, right before the large sword could cut him in two. Mai on the other hand was not as lucky as she was blown back by the force of Gamabunta's sword hitting the ground, sending her crashing into the fort wall, and then hitting the ground in a small crumple heap. Looks like this is the end, Gamabunta commented as he resheathed his sword. I wouldn't be so sure of that. Naruto replied, looking down at Mai as she slowly picked herself up. Seeing this, the Toad boss shook in his in annoyance. Teask, that girl is tough, I'll give her that, after which he then glanced up at Naruto and smirked. You two really are made for each other, you're both stubborn as mules and don't know when to give up. Embarrassed and annoyed by Gamabunta's comment, a blushing Naruto simply replied, shut up. Which just made the massive Toad smirk more. Eventually Gamabunta dropped all humor and adopted a more serious persona when he glanced down at Mai. Want me to finish this? No, Naruto replied, shaking his head, I'll finish this myself. You sure? Asked the Toad boss, raising his left eyebrow. Yay, this fight is between her and me, I want to end this fairly, without any doubt as to which of us is stronger. Huh, alright then, I'll leave the rest to you brat, just make you don't lose and tell me how things turned out. After telling Gamabunta that he would, Naruto quickly jumped of the large toad and landed back on the beach. At the same time the Toad boss returned to Mount Myoboku, disappearing in a large cloud of smoke. Once Gamabunta had returned to Mount Myoboku, Mai stared at the blonde boy for a moment. Why did you have your summons leave? You could have finished this fight with one attack from him. This fight is between us, no one else, using Gamabunta to win this wouldn't feel right with me. When Naruto finished speaking, Mai couldn't help but smile. You know, when you say stuff like that, you make me want to fall for you all over again. Naruto of course did not respond to this, although if one were to look closely they would have seen a faint redness on his cheeks. Ha, the boy may be strong, but his actions shows his age, not to mention his naivety, Hanzo remarked after seeing Naruto send Gamabunta away. Your son just gave up a huge advantage, Amaya added, glancing at Tsunade and the others. He could have finished this fight with one move, but instead he decided send his summons back and fight Mai himself. Annoyed by their remarks, Tsunade retorted, my son has a strong moral code, he doesn't like having an unfair advantage over an opponent he respects, but even then, unlike your daughter, he doesn't need to win by cheap tricks. An admirable quality, Hanzo replied, but still foolish, you should know better. Anyone Tsunade that the strongest and most skilled shinobi does not always win, and such actions can easily lead to your son's death. Tsunade of course did not respond. She knew that Hanzo had a point. Naruto's moral code was always something that worried her. On the surface such actions would be seen respectable and honorable, but not everyone would see it like that, where people like Hanzo would see it as a weakness and take advantage of it. Looking back at Naruto, Amaya was beginning to see why her daughter was so fascinated by the Senju heir. Not only was he powerful and talented, but at the same time he was kind, humble and had a strong moral code, qualities that she herself could not help but like. But even so, the elder Kunoichi knew Naruto's actions could easily lead to his undoing, especially if he acted like this in a real fight, where either he or those close to him would pay the price should he be wrong. Back with Naruto and Mai, the two young shinobi were preparing to restart their fight. Although both of them had been greatly weakened, neither was willing to call it quits yet. Looking at Mai, Naruto could see she was in rough shape. She had several bruises and cuts all over her body, her clothes were in tatters, and thanks Gamabunta she no doubt had more than a few internal injuries and possible fractures. Also, given the way she was breathing, and how long they had been fighting, Naruto figured that she was probably nearing the end of her stamina. But despite this, Naruto knew that the match was far from over. He himself was not in great shape thanks to Mai's poison. Although the medicine he had taken was finally taking effect, allowing him to move better and use his chakra more. He was still far from cured, and it would only be a matter of time before the poison started affecting him again, possibly even worse than before. There was also the fact that he had used the Kyuubi's chakra, which was always a double-edged sword for him and was already starting to affect him, where he felt like he had just run a marathon. Even if he took another soldier pill, he knew that it would do little for him, since it wouldn't negate the effects of the poison. The only way to win was either to beat Mai or outlast her, since it wasn't a matter of if their bodies gave out, it was a matter of when. Enter Bleach OST, Power to Strive. Knowing that he needed to finish this fight quickly, Naruto made the first move and used his Mokuton powers to create another wooden sword for himself and fell into a standard sword stance, allowing for both defensive or offensive action to be taken. At the same time, Mai took out a kunai she had picked up off the ground, since her one remaining fan had been lost when she crashed into the fort wall. After a moment of tense waiting, Mai and Naruto raced forward with impressive speed. Within seconds, the two young shinobi clashed weapons with one another and restarted their battle. Naruto struck first where he tried a diagonal slash, which Mai blocked with her kunai and then pushed him back and tried a horizontal slash across his chest. Only to cut empty space as Naruto leapt back. Not willing to give Mai the advantage, Naruto moved forward and then used the Nagareru Mizu, following water, technique and switch his wooden sword from his right hand to his left at high speed behind his back. Hoping to catch Mai off guard again and hit her in the side. But to his surprise, Mai was able to avoid this by ducking under it. I told you before at the preliminaries, I won't fall for the same trick twice. The girl said before kicking Naruto hard in the left stomach, causing him to spit up slightly and skid several feet away into the lake again. With Naruto now disorientated, Mai raced towards the Senju heir, hoping to finish the fight with a single move. But just as she was about to stab Naruto in the right shoulder, the blonde boy sidestepped to the left, avoiding the kunai thrust and then brought his wooden sword down on right wrist, causing her to drop her kunai. Naruto then followed through with a sharp knee to her stomach, taking the breath right out of the female Hattori member. He then hit her in the side of the head with his bokken, wooden sword, almost knocking her out and then finished with a kick to the stomach, sending her skidding across the water's surface. Surprised by the fact that Mai was still concussion, Naruto raced to finish the elder girl off. But before he could, Mai was able to somehow recover and flipped backwards and performed a series of backwards somersaults, increasing the distance between the two. Once she was back on her feet, Mai immediately spun around and performed several quick hand seals and thought, Kaiten, Ru no Hoko. Spiting an even larger stream of fire from her mouth than before, forcing Naruto to move to avoid them. Shit. Naruto thought when he saw the massive stream of fire closing in on him and was forced to halt his advance on Mai. Knowing he couldn't evade the fire attack in time, Naruto dipped his sword into the water and thought, Senkai no Mizu, swirling water. He started to spin around at high speed, drawing in the surrounding lake water and using it to create a massive water spout around himself, protecting him from Mai's fire attack. At the same time, a large cloud of steam, created from when the fire attack and the water spout made contact, began to form around him, blocking everyone's sight of the blonde boy. End Bleach OST, Power to Strive. Realizing that her attack was pointless, Mai cancelled her fire attack and waited for the steam cloud to die down. But before it could, several high-speed crescent-shaped blades of water suddenly appeared out of the cloud and raced towards her. Bunkatsu Mizu, splitting water, shit. Mai cursed before dropping under the water to avoid the deadly water blades. But as soon as she resurfaced, she came under attack again, where Naruto nearly hit her in the side of the head again with a high-speed horizontal slash. Avoiding the attack, Mai struck back by kneeing the young boy in the side, but as soon as the attack made contact, Naruto reverted into water, revealing he was a fake. Realizing that the fake Naruto was just a distraction, Mai looked around and saw Naruto racing towards her at high speed with his sword pointing forward. Recognizing the Tachiyoyogi, treading water, technique, Mai quickly avoiding the lethal sword stab by back-flipping over Naruto and kicking him in the back of the head as he hung over him. But like before, as soon as she hit him, Naruto reverted into water again, revealing that he was another water clone. After destroying the second water clone, Mai turned around to see any sign of the real Naruto and soon found him, or at least who she thought might be him, and ran towards him. But before she could reach him, Naruto used his bokken to create a wall of water in front of him. Unwilling to let a simple wall of water stop her, Mai continued to move forward him and punched through the water wall, and Naruto. But as soon as she did, the water wall collapsed, causing Naruto to disappear, revealing that he was an illusion created by water wall. 3. Moments after the water wall collapsed, Mai instincts warned her of danger again. Listening to them, Mai quickly jumped back and barely avoided a downward slash from Naruto, who appeared above her. After avoiding the downward slash, Mai then struck back by kicking Naruto hard in the face, sending him flying back several meters. But Naruto recovered and channeled his wind chakra into his bokken, increasing its reach and cutting power, and attempted a horizontal slash across Mai's chest, which she avoided Mai leaping back. She then took out several shuriken and threw them at Naruto, forcing the blonde boy to fall into the water to avoid them. Shortly after falling into the water, Naruto reappeared behind Mai and attempted to slash her from behind. But Mai expected this and jumped forward to avoid the slash. She then spun around and threw the last of her remaining shuriken at him, where he received several slashes across his arms, face and shoulders when he tried to evade them. Taking advantage of the situation, Mai leapt forward and punched Naruto hard in the stomach, causing him to drop his wooden sword into the water. But before she could finish him off, Naruto brought up right fist and tried to punch her in her injured side, forcing her to jump back. Picking up his bokken, which was floating on the water surface after he dropped it, Naruto then raced towards the Amkunaki and used his Mizu no Atsuen, rolling water, technique, in an attempt to catch Mai off guard. Unfortunately, Mai saw through his deception and ignored the feint slash and blocked the real slash with her arm guard hidden beneath her teku. How many times do I have to tell you, I won't fall for the same trick twice. Then how about this? Naruto replied, where he then pulled his wooden sword back and passed his sword from left hand to his right at high speed behind his back, catching the elder girl completely off guard and nearly breaking her left arm when he swung it. Watching the two teens fight from the outer fort wall, Amaya was both surprised and impressed with how skillful Naruto had become in using Kushina's Arasuijin no Mai, Dance of the Raging Water Goddess, sword style. As much as I hate to admit it, Tomato-chan did a pretty impressive job in training that kid. To think he could use so many of her techniques after only a few months of training, he was even able to successfully combine Mizu no Atsuen and Nagareru Mizu to catch Mai-chan off guard. While the battle continued, it became more and more apparent to Mai that she was going to lose, thanks to her now injured arm. She could barely hold Naruto off as he continued to push her back further and further. Taking out some smoke bombs from her pouch, Mai threw them at Naruto, causing them to explode in his face, creating a small cloud of smoke around him. With Naruto now blinded, Mai leapt back several meters, all the while performing hand seals, ignoring the pain she was feel from her injured arm. Damn it, because of my arm it's taking longer than it should for me to perform hand seals, but still, this should do it, Kaiten. Ru no Hoko. Once she finished her hand seals, Mai spat out a large stream of fire from her mouth, but before the attack could make contact, a large waterspout suddenly sprung out of the smoke, blocking the red-hot flames and creating another large cloud of steam. Teesk. He recovered quicker than I expected, Mai thought angrily as she cancelled her attack. Keeping her senses on high alert, Mai waited for the steam cloud to dissipate, knowing that if she were to enter the steam cloud, she would be at a serious disadvantage. Her best option was to wait for the steam to disappear, while watching for any possible sneak attacks. Shortly after the steam cloud appeared, several Narutos jumped out from the steam cloud and raced towards her. Seeing this, Mai waited until the 4 clones were right on top of her. She then flipped over the first one, avoiding a lethal sword stab that would have impaled her. After which she then performed a perfect reverse spin kick right into the second Naruto's face, causing it to revert into water, revealing it to be a water clone. Mizu Bunshin, water clone, huh? Thought Mai after seeing what happened to the Naruto she had hit. Good, that makes things easier. After destroying the water clone and landing back on the lake's surface, Mai spun around and kicked the third Naruto clone off his feet with a high-speed leg sweep. She then flipped herself back into the air to avoid another lethal sword stab from the fourth Naruto clone, who had tried to sneak up behind her. She then kicked him in the back of the head, as she hung in midair over him, causing him to revert into water again. Hey, luckily for me, Mizu Bunshin only have 1/10 of their use's true power, meaning it shouldn't be too hard for me to take care of the remaining 2, Mai said to herself, before glancing at the steam cloud and then at the water below. But still, I need to be on my guard. More than likely Naruto-kun is probably using these clones to distract me. I need to finish this quickly. But as soon as Mai had thought this, 2 more Narutos appeared out of the water behind her and attempted to restrain her. Unfortunately though for the clones, Mai was ready for a sneak attack like this, and used Shunshin no Jutsu, body flicker technique, to evade them and reappear behind him. Hey, nice try Naruto-kun, but not good enough, Mai remarked, as she prepared to face off against the 4 water clones. It didn't take long for Mai to quickly deal with the remaining clones, where in less than a minute, the clones had all but been destroyed. After defeating the last water clone, Mai turned around to the cloud of steam, and saw 3 massive vortexes explode of the steam cloud and into the air, where they formed into 3 large serpent-like dragons. At the same time, Mai saw the real Naruto standing in between 2 shadow clones, who had just finished performing the same set of hand seals he had been doing. Shit. My cursed, realizing what had happened. I was right, the Mizu Bunshin were just a distraction. But he wasn't using them so he could sneak up on me, he was using them to keep me busy until he was ready to use his jutsu. Hearing her mother screams telling her to move, Mai attempted to shunshin away. But before she could perform the necessary hand seals, a seventh water clone appeared out of the water behind her and held her in a grapple hold from behind her back, preventing her from forming any hand seals or moving. Fuck, I was careless. Mai mentally screamed, as she struggled to free herself from the clone's hold. But by then, it was already too late, where she heard Naruto and his clones shout, Suten, Senju Suiruden no Jutsu, water style, triple water dragon technique. D. Seeing the three massive dragons speeding towards from three separate directions, Mai knew she could not avoid them in time and so closed her eyes and braced herself for what was to happen. Within seconds the three water dragons converged on Mai and the water clones and erupted in a tremendous explosion of water, destroying the water clone instantly and sending water flying everywhere. After the explosion died down, Naruto clones disappeared in a puff of smoke, while he fell to his knees, sweat pouring covering his face, while panting heavily. Crap, pant, that was tough, I'm nearly out of chakra, pant, I just hope that ends it, otherwise I'm finished, Naruto said to himself. His body was already aching in pain and was struggling to keep himself afloat on the water. Scanning the water for any sign of Mai, Naruto soon located the older girl 50 meters away from her original location, floating face up in the water. Making his way over to her, Naruto was surprised to see that the kunoichi was still conscious, although just barely. Damn, just how tough is Mai-chan? Without thinking, Naruto immediately started healing the injured kunoichi, using his Shosen Jutsu, mystical palm technique. Looking up, Mai started having a strange sense of deja vu. After losing to Naruto for the second time, she now found herself unable to move, and being healed once again by the blonde boy. You must really love humiliating me. Mai remarked with a painful smirk. Even after beating me, you immediately start healing me, instead of yourself. Staying focused on his task, Naruto simply replied, I'm a medic, it's what I do, before smiling and saying, besides, isn't that one of things that you like about me? Remember what Mai had told him once. Smiling, Mai simply nodded. Since Naruto's kind heart and nature was indeed one of the things that attracted her to him, it was something she was not used to seeing. In her village it was always the survival of the fittest, especially in her clan. She had never met anyone who cared so much for others, and so little of himself. It was so foreign to her, which was also another thing that fascinated her about Naruto. When Naruto finished healing her, the Senju heir slowly helped the elder girl up. Although he had treated her internal injuries, she was still far from healed and her body ached terribly from Naruto's last attack, and would need further medical care later on, before she could be cleared for duty again. But as soon as Mai was back on her feet, Naruto suddenly fell to his knees holding his chest in pain. Crap, the poison. Seeing that Naruto was in pain, Mai quickly took out her small vial of pills from her pouch and gave him one of the pills. Here, take this, it's an antidote to the poison, it'll ease the pain and eliminate the poison's effects in a few hours' time. Deciding to trust Mai, Naruto took the pill and swallowed it, after which the elder girl helped him back up. But as soon as he was back on his feet, Naruto and Mai began to hear a tearing sound, before either could even ask what the noise was. The upper portion of Mai's tunic suddenly fell apart, due to the weight of the water and Mai's chest, and after all wear and tear it went through during the battle, giving the blonde boy a front row view of Mai's now naked chest. For a moment or two, neither teen spoke or so much as moved and simply stared down at Mai exposed upper body, too stunned to do or say anything. Naruto of course was the first to react, turning a completely new shade of red, which had never been seen before. Despite dressing in a rather revealing manner, and regardless common belief shared by many kunoichi, Mai was not a harlot or some sort of exhibitionist. She did in fact have standards when it came to how much of herself she showed to others, and how far she would use her sexuality against her opponents. The fact that she was now basically topless right in front of a member of the opposite sex, who in turn was staring directly at her bare chest, crossed one of those lines. Before Naruto could say, let alone even do anything, a now crimson Mai covered her naked chest with her left arm, failing to cover very much, and used her right to punch Naruto right in the face yelling, Naruto, you lech. Sending the blonde boy flying back with a bleeding nose, although whether the nosebleed was from the punch or from seeing Mai's bare chest remained in mystery. At the same time, watching from the outer wall, a now groaning Tsunade raised her right hand to cover her face. Despite being delighted that Naruto had won the fight, the way it ended left things to be desired. How the hell does he keep getting himself into a situation like this? The female Hokage asked herself, especially with her. Hey, that brat has the devil's luck, Jiraiya said to himself as he and Kushina were fighting hard not to laugh at Naruto's misfortune, or fortune, whichever way you look at it. But as soon as Tsunade turned to them and gave them one of her famed evil stares, their laughter came to an abrupt halt and they suddenly came down with a severe coughing fit. Turning away from the two, Tsunade then glanced over at Hanzo and his party. The AM leader was of course expressionless as usual, making it difficult for Tsunade to know what he was thinking. Kandaki was easier to read, where she could tell by the large frown on his face that the right-hand man of Hanzo was greatly displeased by how the battle turned out, but not surprised at the same time. Amaya on the other hand did not seem annoyed or angry, instead she looked relieved. Tsunade suspected that this was due to the fact that her daughter had survived being hit by 3 water dragons without serious harm, which was remarkable in itself. It showed just how resilient the young girl was, and made Tsunade wonder if the girl somehow had some Uzumaki blood in her. Just as Tsunade was about to comment on how the match ended, the blonde Hokage caught a gleam out of the corner of her eye and shouted, "Down!" Acting on Tsunade's warning, the 3 Am shinobi and 2 Konoha shinobi quickly fell to ground, narrowly escaping death from a hail of shuriken from behind. Moments after the attack, a dozen shinobi landed on the wall and started attacking, acting on pure instinct and allowing no time for the attacking shinobi to do anything. Tsunade jumped forward and kicked one of the shinobi hard in the chest, sending him flying back into the fort, crushing his chest at the same time. Once she had dealt the shinobi, Tsunade immediately sidestepped a kunai stab from another one of the attacking and grabbed his arm, allowing her to get a better look at him and his headband, indicating that he was from Am. Upon seeing the headband, Tsunade at first thought that the attack was a trap set up by Hanzo. But such thoughts quickly evaporated when she saw the large scratch across the shinobi headband, indicating that he was a missing nin, and not a follower of Hanzo. This became even more apparent when Tsunade glanced over at Hanzo's party and saw that they were also busy fighting the same group of shinobi. After grabbing hold of the attacking shinobi's arm, Tsunade then used her enhanced strength to flip said shinobi high up into the air and into the lake. She then quickly turned to the direction that the enemy shinobi had come from and saw a large group of shinobi, numbering about 30, moving towards them. Knowing that they were too exposed on the wall to be fighting like this, Tsunade gathered her chakra into her fist and shouted, "Jump!" As she slammed her fist onto the wall, causing it to explode into pieces as it collapsed, covering the nearby area in smoke and dust. Heeding Tsunade's words, Jiraiya, Hanzo and the others leapt high into the air, right before she destroyed the wall, burying several of the assassins under the rumble. After landing on the lake, the two parties wasted no time in racing over to Naruto and Mai to make sure that they were safe. When they reached the two teens, they saw that Naruto had already recovered from his little incident with Mai and had been chivalrous enough to give the girl his coat so that she could cover herself with it. "Ka-chan, what's going on?" "Assassins," Tsunade replied before turning to Hanzo, "from Am." "They are not from Am, they're missing nins, and in case you haven't noticed, they attacked us as well," Amaya retorted coolly, not liking the tone Tsunade had used when addressing her father. "Yeah, we saw that," Jiraiya added, where he then turned to the Am leader, "I guess they're not fans of yours, are they?" At first Hanzo did not reply, since he didn't like talking about his village's internal matters with outsiders. But given the situation, the elder shinobi leader knew there was no point in hiding it, since any lie he came up with would be easily seen through. "They are rebels, trying to eliminate me so that they can take over the village for themselves. It seems that Am isn't quite as stable as you wanted us to believe," Tsunade remarked, causing Hanzo and his group to glare coldly at her. "It was an internal matter for my village and was of no concern to you or Konoha," Hanzo retorted coldly, angered by how things turned out. He had underestimated the rebel forces, and did not believe they had capability, let alone the audacity to attack him like this, something that he would deal with once he returned to Am. "Well, your internal problem has just become our problem," voiced Kushina, pointing at the rebel shinobi who had now cleared the wall and was racing towards them. Glancing at Naruto and Mai, the red-headed Jonin knew that if they fought here, the two teens would get caught up in the fight, and given how exhausted they were, it was likely they would get killed, or seriously hurt. There was also the fact that Tsunade could also get seriously hurt in the fight, and Konoha could not afford to lose her right now. Knowing what needed to be done, Kushina raced forward to intercept the advancing shinobi group, before they could reach the Hokage and the others. Seeing this, Tsunade quickly tried to call the younger woman back. Kushina, what do you think you're doing? Get back here. Ignoring the elder woman's orders, Kushina continued towards the group and made a shadow clone of herself. Take Naruto and the girl and fall back to forest, I hold them off. Kushina, get back, you can't take them all on by yourself. Yelled Jiraiya. Trust me, I know what I am doing. The former Anbu captain replied, before telling her clone what she wanted it to do. Enter Magi Ostn for Peru. After nodding its head, Kushina's clone halted and then conjured several dozen long chains from its back, where it erected a massive dome-shaped barrier around the lake and the fort. Once the chain barrier was erected, Kushina was certain that the group was now contained and could no longer harm the Hokage and the others. But just as she was about to move towards the rebel group, she was suddenly joined by Amaya, who had somehow entered the barrier before it was full erected. What the hell are you doing here? Kushina demanded, surprised by Amaya's sudden appearance. This is an internal problem for my village, and I intend to deal with it, Amaya replied without even looking at Kushina. You're going to help me? Kushina asked with no small amount of surprise. Believe me, I don't like it any more than you do, but for this one time, we share a common enemy and should work together, Amaya answered before turning to look at her rival and smirked. Besides, there's no way I'm going to stand by and let you hog all the glory from this. Smirking back, Kushina nodded, fine, but don't blame me if you get hurt, or expect me to watch your back. Smirking again, Amaya nodded back, stating that she wouldn't expect her to, after which the two of them sped across the water at remarkable speed. Once they were close enough, the two kunoiki suddenly jumped up high into the air, avoiding a hail of kunai thrown at them by the rebel shinobi and landed in the middle of the group. Instantly Kushina and Amaya drew their swords and dispatched 4 of the rebel shinobi with frightening ease. After which they then separate from one another and began engaging the enemy shinobi in close combat at opposite ends. After killing 2 more shinobi with her katana, Kushina found herself surrounded by a dozen or so shinobi who all unleashed a hail of shuriken on her. Acting fast, Kushina turned her katana around and dipped it into the water and began spinning around at high speed, creating a giant waterspout, which protected her from the projectiles. At the same time, several dozen high-speed water blades suddenly erupted out of the spinning waterspout, flying in every direction. The surrounding shinobi did their best to avoid the deadly water blades, but some weren't as fast as others and were almost instantly sliced to pieces by the crescent-shaped water blades. At the same time, on the opposite end of the battlefield, Amaya was busy dealing with the other half of the rebel group. After avoiding a lethal sword slash from one of the rebel shinobi, Amaya started performing a series of high-speed one-handed hand seals and spat out a massive stream of fire. Quick to act, 3 of the rebel nins combined their water skills to create a large wall of water to block the fire attack, creating a blanket of steam in front of them. But as soon as the fire attack had ended and they had cancelled their water wall, Amaya appeared out of the steam and separated all 3 of their heads from their bodies with one single powerful swing from her giant sword. Seeing their comrades being killed so mercilessly by the daughter of Hanzo, 2 other rebels ran forward and attempted to stab her in the back with their kunai. Noticing what the 2 shinobi were trying to do after seeing them out of the corner of her eye, Amaya formed a single one-handed hand sign and blew out a small stream of fire from her mouth, imbuing her blade with the flames. She then quickly spun around and shouted, Ryujin Jaka, flowing flame blade. As she severed both shinobi from their lower halves with her flaming sword, cauterizing their wounds at the same time, preventing any blood from spilling. With the 2 missing nins dealt with, Amaya noticed another 3 attempting the same tactic, after seeing their reflection on the flat side of her sword. Fools, thought the dark-haired kunoiki as she spun her sword around and unleashed a powerful flaming arc from her sword, which quickly enveloped all 3 missing nins. But to her surprise, instead of seeing their bodies burn, the 3 shinobi reverted into water, revealing them to be water clones. By the time Amaya realized she had been tricked, the 3 shinobi appeared out of the water, surrounding her, where they attempted to stab her with the short swords from all sides. But instead they stabbed each other, due to Amaya using Shunshin no Jutsu, body flicker technique, to evade their attacks. After escaping the sneak attack, Amaya reappeared several meters away from where she shunshined, and again found herself surrounded by several rebels. This time though she was ready and brought up her flaming sword and spun it around, creating a large circular wall of flame around herself, incinerating 2 of the missing nins, while the rest were forced to jump away. But they quickly struck back by firing several powerful water attacks at the Kunoichi. Acting on instinct, Amaya channeled her chakra into her sword, increasing the flames around it and began spinning around at high speed, creating a large swirling vortex of fire around herself. When the water attacks crashed Mai's flaming twister, the cold water quickly began to cool down the hot flames, creating a dense cloud of steam that covered much of the surrounding arena. Shit, I can't see a thing, thought one of the rebel nins, right before the daughter of Hanzo appeared out of the water behind him and sliced his head off, without him ever knowing what had happened. On the opposite end of the battlefield, Kushina had just finished with another one of the rebels' shinobi when she turned to the direction Amaya was fighting in, after seeing the large flaming twister. She's sure holding nothing back, she's already using Raijin Jaka and Hissen, Fire Whirl. Seeing that Kushina was momentarily distracted, one of the missing nins attempted to run her through the back with his sword. But before he could get close enough to do this, several chakra chains shot out of the red-haired woman's back and impaled him. After which Kushina then conjured several more chakra chains from her body and fired them in multiple different directions, impaling 4 other nearby shinobi. Angered by the death of 4 more of her comrades, one rebel kunoichi threw several kunai with exploding notes tied to them at Kushina, detonating them once they hit her. But when the smoke from the explosion died down, the only thing the kunoichi could see were the fragments of a destroyed wooden log, revealing that Kushina had replaced herself at the last moment. Fuck, thought the rebel kunoichi, before her felt a sudden sense of danger from behind and jumped forward, barely avoiding a lethal slash from behind from Kushina. The kunoichi then quickly spun around and took out another set of kunai, throwing the first 2, while holding onto the third. Wasting no time, Kushina skillfully deflected the 2 kunai with her katana, but was forced to jump back when the rebel kunoichi appeared underneath her and tried to stab her in the stomach with her kunai. Unwilling to let Kushina escape, the rebel kunoichi went after the redhead, who had landed at the edge of the steam cloud that had been created when Amaya's fire twister was extinguished. Using her katana, Kushina began spinning her katana around over her head, gathering a thin layer of steam from the cloud around herself. She then brought the flat end of her blade forward and disappeared right before the kunoichi eyes. What the? But before the kunoichi could finish her train of thought, a long sharp blade burst out of her chest from behind, causing her to spit out large amounts of blood. Confused by what was happening, the female shinobi turned her head around slightly and was surprised to find Kushina standing behind her. Genjutsu, muttered the dying kunoichi. No. Kushina replied, Kirasui, misty water, where she then pulled her katana out of the woman's back, causing her fall forward into the water. Moments after killing the kunoichi, Kushina immediately jumped into the air to avoid several high-speed balls of fire from a group of rebels. Reacting quickly, Kushina took out several exploded notes and threw them at the water below and detonated them, creating a brief screen of smoke and water to distract the rebel shinobi. But before the smoke could even dissipate, several dozen chakra chains, with exploding notes tied to them, appeared out from the smoke and flew straight for rebel group, impaling 6 of the missing nins, who then exploded when the notes on the chains activated. The remaining 4 though escaped, thanks to replacing themselves with water clones. End Magi Ostn for Peru. Calling her chakra chains back, Kushina was about to renew her battle with the remaining shinobi, but was stopped when she heard a familiar voice shout, Kaiten, Ru no Hoko, from within the cloud of steam behind her. Acting fast, Kushina jumped up into the air, and just managed to evade a massive stream of fire that had suddenly blasted out of the steam cloud. When she landed back on the water, Kushina immediately sensed someone standing directly behind her. Turning, Kushina brought up her sword and swung it around, intending to remove the person's head with it, but suddenly stopped short at the person's neck after seeing the person's face, realizing that the person was Amaya, who had also brought up her sword and had just stopped sort of doing the exact same thing to Kushina. Damn Amaya, I nearly killed you. Me. I nearly killed you, retorted the buxom kunoichi as she and Kushina slowly lowered their swords. But no sooner had they lowered their blades, they quickly brought them up again and slashed at 2 rebel nin, who appeared out of water on opposing sides behind the 2 kunoichi. After killing the 2 shinobi, the 2 kunoichi quickly turned their backs to one another when they saw that they were now surrounded on all sides by the remaining enemy shinobi. Hey, Laughed Amaya, I thought you said that you wouldn't be watching my back. Not taking her eyes off her rebel shinobi surrounding them, Kushina retorted, I simply reacted to an approaching enemy, so don't think for 1 second that means I like you. Smirking, Amaya glanced briefly back at her sworn rival, glad to hear it, for a second there I thought you were getting soft on me there. Hardly, Kushina scoffed. So will we finish this? Amaya asked with a half smirk. Fine, the redhead replied, before the two of them jumped up into the air, and used their feet to propel each other forward with remarkable speed. Catching the Amnin off guard by how fast she was travel, Kushina was able to cut one rebel in two, with frightening ease. Taking advantage of their confusion, Kushina then swung her katana in a wide arc, slashing two more shinobi across their stomachs and opening them up. Recovering from their surprise, the remaining other rebel shinobi fired a hail of shuriken, kunai and jutsu, but before they could reach their target, the female Uzumaki cancelled the chakra to her feet, causing her to fall into the water and allowing her to avoid attacks. Stupid bitch, she's on our turf now, thought one of the rebel nins before shouting, after her. Where he and the rest of his comrades went into the water after her. At the same time, Amaya was busy killing her third enemy before one shinobi jumped into the air and fired a football-size fireball. Unafraid by the fire attack, the Kunoki formed a single one-handed hand seal and thought, Kaiten, Gokakyu no Jutsu, fire style, great fireball technique. Before firing a massive ball of flame. Within seconds, the fire attack was enveloped the smaller fireball and hit the rebel shinobi, who could only watch as the flaming ball flew towards him and burned him alive. Taking advantage of Amaya's distraction, two shinobi came up behind her, hoping to finally put an end to the daughter of Hanzo. But before they could reach her, a large whirlpool suddenly appeared in the water, blocking their path. Before either shinobi could even wonder what was happening, a massive waterspout burst out whirlpool. What the? Said one of the rebels, before he saw a dozen of his comrades being thrown out of the waterspout, and sent crashing back onto the water. Turning around, Amaya smirked when she saw the waterspout dying down, revealing Kushina standing in the middle of it. Show off. What the hell just happened? Asked one of the rebels as he helped his comrade back up onto their feet. That damn bitch, she's what happened. Shouted the shinobi. When she went underwater, we followed after her, but as soon as we had her surrounded, she used some sort of jutsu to spin around and create a whirlpool that shucked us up and flung us up into the air. When the waterspout died down, Kushina sheathed her katana and took out a scroll from her pouch before opening it up, unleashing a hail of shuriken and kunai, which flew out of the scroll, impaling several of rebels. Angered by what Kushina's had done, one of the shinobi fired a powerful blast of fire at her, which the redhead immediately blocked by taking out and opening another scroll and sucked the fire blast within the scrolls. After the fire attack had absorbed within the scroll, Kushina closed the scroll and reopened it, releasing the fire blast at attacking shinobi, who dodged the attack and charged straight at her. Sidestepping the shinobi kunai stab, Kushina redrew her blade and rammed her katana into the man's chest. But to her surprise, the shinobi smiled and grabbed hold of her arms with his right hand and shouted, now. Upon hearing their comrade's order, one shinobi used the surrounding water to create a large sphere of water that enveloped both Kushina and his comrade. At the same time, and second shinobi started performing hand seals for a lightning technique that would kill both people inside the water sphere. But before the shinobi could finish the required hand seals, he and his other comrade were forced to move when they saw two kunai flying towards them, causing the water sphere to collapse. With the water sphere now gone, Kushina wasted no time in freeing herself, where she punched the dying shinobi holding her in the face, causing him to let go of her. Allowing her to pull her katana out of him and finish him off with single swing of her sword, severing his head. Looks like you owe me one, Tomato-chan, a smirking Amaya remarked, appearing next to Redhead. But no sooner had she appeared, without warning Kushina kicked her away. Angered by what had happened, Amaya was about to yell, but stopped when she saw Kushina stabbing a rebel kunoiki, who had seemingly snuck up behind her, and had been about to stab her in the back of the head with a kunai. Pulling her katana out of then now dead kunoiki's chest, Kushina turned to her rival and smirked, now we're even it, before jumping off to re-engage the remaining rebels. Not about to be outdone by Kushina, Amaya quickly took off after the red-headed kunoiki. From their position on the shoreline of the lake, Naruto and the others watched as his sensei and Mai's mother battled the rebel assassins. As the battle continued, Naruto couldn't help but awe at their skill, and now understood just how strong his sensei was. Despite being vastly outnumbered 20-1, the two kunoichi seemed to be winning and had just killed almost half of the enemy shinobi. This was also the first time for Naruto to really watch his sensei and actually battle, although he had watched her fight briefly when she fought against Kisame. He had been unable to stay conscious long enough to watch the entirety of the fight. How are they able to do that? Naruto asked, after watching Amaya block a sword strike from one of the rebel shinobi with her own large sword when he tried to attack his sensei. Kushina then flipped over Amaya and stabbed the rebel in the head with her katana. When she landed back on the water, Amaya flipped over her, kicking away an rebel kunoichi, who tried to stab her in the side with a kunai. Kushina in turn elbowed another shinobi, who attacked her, hard in the throat and then kicked him away. She then tossed her katana into the air and kicked the base of the hilt with her foot, sending the sword speeding towards a shinobi, who appeared out of the water behind Amaya, stabbing him in the neck, killing him instantly. 4. I thought they were enemies, but the way they are fighting now, it's like they're comrades who trained with each other for years. They're fighting in perfect sync of each other and at the same time covering for one another, it's almost like they can read each other's minds. It is because they are enemies that they are able to work so well with one another, Hanzo answered, speaking for the first time with Naruto. Turning to the aged shinobi, Naruto's only response was a, "Ha." Not understanding what Hanzo was trying to tell him. Your sensei and my daughter have fought each other many times over the years, and because of this, they know how each other fight. Rivals can often know each other better than comrades can, because they have fought each other so many times and have trained themselves to look out for subtle moves or signs that they each make when they fight, allowing them to predict what the other will do next. Once he had finished, Hanzo went back to watching the fight, where Kushina used her Mizu no Josho, rising water, technique to block a fire attack from one of the rebels. This allowed Amaya strike back by throwing several kunai, with exploding notes timed to them, at the rebels, forcing the enemy shinobi back, when they exploded. So that is the Uzumaki girl that Amaya is always talking. The one capable of restraining Biju, she is indeed impressive, not to mention powerful. The fact she able to create a barrier to envelope the entire lake and fort, and still be strong enough to keep all those shinobi within it is no small feat for anyone. Mai was of course of similar mind as her grandfather, and was beginning to understand why her mother held the female Uzumaki in such high regard and how she was able to stand up to her mother in battle. With Kushina and Amaya, using Namiatsu Mizu, rippling water, technique, Kushina synchronized her breathing and locked her eyes with a rebel shinobi she had been fighting with, allowing her to dodge the shinobi rapid high-speed sword strikes, with relative ease. Frustrated that all his attacks were failing, the shinobi lunged forward at the female Uzumaki, giving Kushina exactly the opening she needed. Allowing her to sidestep the stab and move behind him, allowing her to backhand him in the back of the head, knocking him out and causing him to fall face first into the water, where he drowned. Moments after dealing with the sword-wielding shinobi, Kushina was forced to jump away when she saw a hail of shuriken fall down on top of her from above. When she landed several meters away she saw 4 more rebel shinobi standing where she had been. But before any of them could attack, they heard a familiar female voice shout Kaiten, Hibashiri, fire style, running fire. Where several streams of fire suddenly appeared and flew through the air and form a large circle of fire around the 4 shinobi, trapping them inside it. Before any of the shinobi could act, Amaya suddenly appeared directly above him, and after finishing another set of one-handed hand seals thought, Kaiten, Rekka, fire style, ardent flame. When she spat out a massive blast of fire. After spitting out the large fire blast, Amaya brought up her giant sword and swung it, creating a shockwave that enhanced the fire blast's flames. With nowhere to run, the 4 shinobi could only watch on in horror as the giant inferno fell down on top of them, burning them alive, leaving only ashes in its wake. But as soon as Amaya landed back on the water's surface, Kushina chains suddenly surrounded her, forming a protective barrier around her, saving her from a barrage of exploding notes and kunai. At that moment Kushina formed a single hand seal and thought, Suten, Mizu Kamakiri, water style, rising water slicer. Before spitting out a fast jet of water from her mouth, forcing the attacking shinobi to jump away. Recovering quickly, one of the rebel shinobi struck back by firing his own water attack at Kushina. Seeing this, Amaya shouted at Kushina to lower her barrier. Doing what she was told, Kushina lowered her chain barrier, allowing Amaya to appear in between the redhead and the approaching water attack, thanks to Shunshin no Jutsu, body flicker technique. After forming 3 quick hand seals and gathering a large amount of chakra to her month, converting it into fire, the Kunoiki finished forming her hand seals and thought, Kaiten, Kuan, fire style, crimson flames. Firing a large blast of fire at the water attack, causing it to evaporate, creating a small screen of hot steam. Shortly after Amaya blocked the water attack, 4 rebels appeared out of the steam cloud, catching the daughter Hanzo off guard. But before she could even try to defend herself, 4 large spinning drills of water appeared around her and flew at the 4 attacking shinobi, impaling them. Turning around, Amaya saw Kushina smirking at her, and realized that the female Uzumaki had just saved her using Suigarden water fang bullet. Nodding her thanks to the redhead, Amaya turned back around when she noticed a flash of light coming out of the corner of her eye. Wasting no time, Amaya jumped away when she saw several large fireballs speeding towards her out of the steam cloud. With only a few seconds before the fireballs hit her, Amaya formed 3 quick hand seals and thought, Kaiten, Haiheiki no Jutsu, fire style, firewall technique. She then spat out a large stream of fire from her mouth, creating a massive wall of fire in front of her which absorbed the fireballs. But as soon as the fire wall had appeared, 2 rebels appeared out of the water and jumped up high into the air and threw down a hail of pellets, which exploded, releasing a cloud poison which covered much of the area, and enveloped both Kushina and Amaya. At the same time, Amaya's fire wall was extinguished by several rebels when they spat out several powerful streams of water in collaboration. It's finally over, said the rebel leader, as he and his remaining men waited for the poison cloud to dissipate. Looking around, the rebel leader couldn't help but growl when he saw the bodies of his subordinates floating in the water. What should have been a quick and decisive victory and had turned into an absolute disaster. The 2 Kunoiki had proven more difficult than he ever expected them to be, and thanks to Kushina's barrier they were unable to maneuver around them to attack their real target Hanzo. Out of the 40 shinobi that he had gathered, now only 12 remained. Sir, spoke one of his few remaining Kunoiki, once we've finished off Hanzo's daughter and the Konoha Kunoiki, I believe it would be wise to retreat. No, yelled rebel leader furiously, we've come too far and sacrificed too much to fail now. But sir, said the Kunoiki, we've lost the element of surprise and even if we take down the Konoha Kunoiki's barrier, our chances of actually killing Hanzo are slim to none, especially if the Hokage-sama and Jiraiya-sama get involved. And if we retreat now, Hanzo will come down on the rebellion harder than before, and will not rest until we're all dead, especially now that we've killed his daughter. If the rebellion is to have any chance of succeeding, Hanzo needs to die today, no matter the cost. Realizing that she could not be able to change her superior's mind, the Kunoiki simply nodded her head in acceptance. After a few minutes, the poison cloud began to dissipate, revealing the 2 Kunoiki. But to the surprise of the remaining rebels, Kushina remained alive, having surrounded herself with her chain barrier, keeping the poison cloud out. Amaya sadly was not so fortunate and had breathed in the poison and was now floating face up in the water. Damn that Konoha bitch simply won't die, the rebel leader said to himself. But at least we've killed Hanzo's whore of a daughter. Turning to 2 of his subordinates, the rebel leader said, Yuta, go make sure that Hanzo's daughter is dead, the rest come with me to finish off the Konoha Kunoiki. With a chorus, hi. The remaining rebel shinobi spilt up. Once they had surrounded Kushina, the leader of the rebels walked up to her, surrender, if you lower your barrier and have your clone do the same, you will not be harmed. Our target is Hanzo, not you. Somehow I doubt that, Kushina replied, knowing full well she had killed too many of their comrades for them to simply let her go. Plus she had a feeling that these people had no intention of leaving any witnesses. Then we'll force you out. The leader snarled angrily. But before he or his subordinates could attack, Kushina formed 5 quick hand seals and slammed her hand onto the water and yelled, Kekai ninjutsu, Tojiko no Jutsu, barrier ninja technique, confinement technique. At the same time, several seals began to form around the surface of the water and surround Kushina and the rebels, preventing any of them from moving. 5. Shit. It's a trap, yelled one of the rebels, but before any of them could call for help from their comrades, Kushina shouted, now Amaya. At that moment after hearing Kushina's voice, Amaya's eyes suddenly opened, much to the surprise of the 2 shinobi kneeling over her. Grabbing the hand of one of the rebels, Amaya turned the kunai that he was about to use on her and rammed it into his neck, killing him instantly. After which she then spun around and scratched the second rebel on the right cheek with her sharp nails, just as he jumped away from her. "How the hell are you still alive?" snarled the rebel, holding his right cheek in pain. Smirking back at the traitor, Ayama replied, "Hey, you rebel scum really need to do your homework better. Like my father, I'm resistant to most type of poisons, and poison of that caliber won't even make me sneeze." Glaring at the dark-haired kunoiki, the rebel shinobi took out a kunai. "You're dead, you bitch." Still smirking, Amaya retorted, "Oh, I don't think so. In fact, you're the one that's dead. You just don't know it yet." "What are you talk gua?" said the rebel before he spat out a large amount of blood. "Ah, looks like it's already working," Amaya mused to herself. "What did you do to me, you bitch?" screamed the man as she started spitting out more blood and held his chest in pain as his heart started pounding like it was about to burst. "I poisoned you, just like you tried to poison us," Amaya replied simply. "WWH when?" asked the shinobi before falling to his knees, while his breathing began to quicken. "WH when? H how? When I scratched your face," Amaya answered, inditing the scratch on his right cheek, which had now turned bright green. "As to how, like my father I am able to produce poison from my body, although unlike him I cannot breathe it out. Instead it comes out of my sweat glands, and should I scratch someone with my nails I infect them with the poison, which as you can see, takes effect very quickly." "DD damn you. Gua," cursed the rebel nin before spitting out more blood and finally falling to the effects of the poison. With the rebel nin now, Amaya bit her right thumb and thought, "Time to finish this," before forming hand seals and yelling, "Kuchio's no jutsu," summoning technique, creating a large cloud of smoke. When the smoke dissipated, it revealed Amaya standing atop a massive gray salamander, which was easily 3 times the size of the ones that Mai had summoned when she had been battling Naruto. After summoning her own personal summons, Amaya wasted no time in giving her summons orders. Geki, Dokugiri, Poison Mist. 6. Heading his master's command, the massive summons inhaled deadly and exhaled a massive cloud of purple mist, which quickly enveloped the surrounding area. Thanks to Kushina's barrier, the remaining rebels' cloud not escaped the deadly cloud. Some of course tried to hold their breath, but this proved futile and before long they all collapsed and fell dead. Once the poison cloud dissipated, Kushina lowered her barrier and made her way over to Amaya, who ordered her summons to return home. "Looks like we have a lot of cleaning up to do," Kushina remarked grimly, glancing over at the numerous bodies floating in the water, knowing they couldn't be left here. "Not really," Amaya replied before performing several hand seals and then saying, "Kaiten, Director, fire style, great ardent flame," and spewing out a gigantic stream of fire, which consumed the bodies within minutes, while causing steam to erupt as the water evaporated from the superheated flames. When Amaya finished, Kushina simply nodded, although she did not like such methods when it came to dealing with bodies. It was standard practice for all shinobi villages when dealing with the bodies of missing nin or when the body of a fallen comrade could not be returned home for burial. Dying Anbu would sometimes even place a special note on themselves, which would ignite and burn their bodies, preventing enemies from recovering their bodies and learning any of their village's secrets. Shortly afterwards, Kushina signaled her clone to bring down the barrier around the lake in the fort, before disappearing. They then made their way over to Tsunade and the others, who waited for them at the lake shore. Once they reached them, Tsunade immediately started to berate the former Anbu captain for disobeying her orders. But after a few minutes of reprimanding, the female Hokage eased off the redhead and started to treat her injuries. But not before she warned her that if she ever disobeyed her orders like that again she would have her demoted back to a genin. Amaya on the other hand, got no such reprimanding from her father, instead got a simple nod of approval, indicating that he pleased with her actions with dealing with the rebels. Mai on the other hand showed a bit more concern for her mother, asking if her injuries were serious, which thankfully were not, where she soon received treatment from Tsunade, as gratitude for assisting Kushina. While Tsunade was busy attending to the 2 kunoiki injuries, Jiraiya summoned several small toads to search the lake and the surrounding forestry for any other possible enemies that might have escaped or stayed hidden during the battle. But when the toads returned, they reported that there were no more enemies around. At the same time, one small red toad returned with the Raijin no Ken, Sword of Thunder, which Naruto had lost in the lake during the earlier part of his fight with Mai. When Tsunade finished treating Amaya and Kushina, both she and Hanzo also decided, given what happened, that it would be best for both sides to return to respect villages. Thankfully Hanzo agreed to uphold his end of the deal, agreeing to the original terms of the agreement, without requiring Naruto and Mai to marry. Making her way over to the blonde Senju, while still wearing Naruto's coat, given how it was the only thing that covered her torso. The granddaughter of Hanzo held out her hand, which Naruto took and shook. You won the match fair and square, and as my grandfather agreed, I will no longer push the matter on us getting married. But don't think I've given up. I have no intention of letting some other girl getting you, especially since you need to take responsibility for it, said Mai, emphasizing the word, it, causing everyone to now stare in shock at the two. Naruto, what is she talking about? Demanded a now furious Tsunade, realizing the meaning behind those words. Wait, it's a misunderstanding Karchan, Naruto said, waving his hands in denial, before turning to Mai. Tell her Mai-chan, tell her nothing happened. Feigning hurt at Naruto's words, the young Kunoichi pretended to wipe away imaginary tears from her eyes. Oh Naruto-kun, how can you say that after everything that happened back in Konoha, you were after all my first, where she then smirked and winked at him, causing the blonde boy to turn even redder at the meaning of those words. Ooh, she's good, Kushina thought with a mischievous smirk, realizing what Mai was doing. Before Naruto could even respond to the elder Kunoichi claim, he suddenly felt someone slapping him on the back and a large arm warp over him in a one-arm hug. Way to go KKIIDD. Jiraiya yelled in congratulations, you've popped your cherry, at 12. Before long the Toad Sage began to cry tears of joy, I'm so proud, my godson has finally become a Marak. Hearing enough of Jiraiya, the now furious Hokage elbowed her former teammate right in the face, breaking his nose and knocking him out with one hit. After which she then turned her attention to her son, who tried sneak away but was instantly caught by his mother. Where do you think you're going, young man? You and I need to have a chat. Taking this as their cue to leave, the party took off into the tree, leaving a laughing Kushina, a furious Tsunade, a pleading Naruto and a bleeding Jiraiya. Making their way through the treetops and back home to Kandaki turned to his leader. It seems that we've failed with our plans, Hanzo-sama. True, replied the leader, but still, I was able to see some interesting things. I saw with my own eyes just what that boy is capable of and what he is like. I also got to see the Uzumaki girl that my daughter is always talking about. We also removed a large number of rebels and we still have the pack with Konoha, so it was not a total loss. So you have not given up on your plan in acquiring Mokuton and killing the boy? Kandaki asked. No, said Hanzo, the plan will simply need to be modified, that's all. Besides, thanks to the pact that we've just made with Konoha, we have a much better platform to work on. There is more than one way to get to the boy and acquire his bloodline limit than having him marry Mai. We still have plenty of time, so before we concern ourselves with him again, we'll finish dealing with the rebels. I understand, said Kandaki, before he glanced back at Amaya and Mai, who were only a few meters behind them and were busy talking to one another. Guess our little plan to snare you the Senju heir didn't work, Amaya remarked with a hint of disappointment in her voice. I guess, but at least this time I got a little souvenir out our fight, Mai replied, hugging Naruto's coat around her more. He's surprising strong for someone his age. Amaya commented suddenly. I approve of him, so don't let any other get him before you. Pleased that she had her mother's approval, Mai nodded, indicating that she had no intention of losing either. Glancing at her daughter again, Amaya decided to ask his daughter something that had been on her mind, ever since they first left Goryokaku Fort. Tell me, Mai, is it true what you said? Was the boy really your first? Smiling, Mai nodded, causing her mother right eyebrow to rise. But before she could comment, Mai said, yes mother, Naruto-kun was my first kiss. That will be it for this video. If you want more, comment down below, like, subscribe. And see you guys later.